you're set. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Community Preservation Committee, January 28th, 2026. I call the meeting to order at 7:07. First item on the agenda is golf course irrigation project. Bill Cundiff. Bill had sent us a interoffice memo and kind of explained what he wanted to come here and talk about. I'm sure we all have some thoughts on this, but if we could bring Bill over first, we'll kind of let him go over what's going on. I will say I did meet with Bill and Mark Purple, not representing the committee. I went, as an individual member of the committee. So I met with them, and then that's when Bill suggested that they would send the memo and go from there. So, yes, Claire? Claire, your hand's up?
Yeah, I'm remote, and I don't know if I'm the only one who's having a problem hearing you.
Well, that's a first. Is that better?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Usually my voice carries really well and I don't have to, but that's fine. Thank you. All right. So is Bill there?
I'm here on audio. I don't know why I don't have video.
I don't either.
This is unusual, but regardless, I'm happy to proceed if you'd like.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. So in the memo, I'll just give
Hold on 1 second. Go ahead.
Oh,
Is
okay.
there-
Oh, I think I allowed you to talk, but now I promoted you to a panelist. I don't know if that allows you to have
Now
video
tr-
instead.
Did we lose him?
No, here he is.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, there you are. Now we can see you. Go right ahead.
Okay. So just to give you an overview, I wanted to come back and before the committee and give you an update and let you know where we're at with regard to the golf course irrigation project. I'll start with an overview of where we were, how we got to this point, and what the obstacles we have currently before us. So back in August of 2023, the Southborough Golf Committee submitted an application to the CPA for funding a new golf course irrigation system. I guess the existing system at the time was aging, inefficient, and hydrant-based system with limited zoning and low operating pressures. In March 23rd of 2024, annual town meeting approved the CPA funding of $553,750, which is broken into two components: $475,000 for project costs and $78,750 for contingency. It had some conditions in the warrant article. It requires CPC approval. It required project completion with a deadline of December 1st of 2026. And lastly, work should conform with a CPC approved scope and executed memorandum of understanding. In July of 24, the town engaged PAR Corporation to prepare permitting and construction bid documents for the irrigation system. A year later, in May of 25, PAR substantially completed the final design of the documents. We then submitted to the Conservation Commission for permitting, and in August, we received an order of conditions for the design. We bid it immediately after that order was issued, and a month later, we received only one bid, one responsive bid. And that bid came in at $718,500, which is well beyond the dollars that were allocated for the project. There was a second bidder, but their bid came in a day after the first bid, and it was at a higher cost than the first bid. So moving on, we took a step back and wanted to understand what happened, why were the bids high. So we engaged Irrigation Consulting, which is a firm that specializes in golf course irrigation systems, to review the bid documents, see if there were ways that we could reduce the cost through value engineering or better design, maybe make some tweaks to the design that we had. They came up with a list of recommendations, but all said and done, they thought we could potentially save up to $140,000, which still wouldn't be adequate to do what we needed to do. But in addition to that savings, they identified that we would have had a water pressure issue and we would still need a pump station for the irrigation system to function properly. That cost would be $200,000. So instead of saving the overall cost, it ended up bumping it up even further. If we were to incorporate the value engineering to reduce the cost as well as a new pump, in addition to the bid prices that we did receive, we're estimating that the cost would be about $900,000 for the project, all said and done. So what I'm doing here tonight is give you an update, solicit some feedback from the committee, and then we'll take that and determine next steps.
Great, thank you, Bill. That was really great. I appreciate that. So when I had met with Mark and Bill, we had a great conversation. Some of the things I had shared with them, which, you know, I'll share with you guys as well, is I wanted to be clear that $1.2 million has already gone into the golf course between the parking lot, the redoing of the tees, and now the irrigation system. And I just didn't know in this climate how town meeting was going to feel about adding more. So we talked a little bit about the revolving funds. The funds aren't in the revolving fund to do this. So I have some questions on Bill's memo, but I just wanted to put that out there for you guys because that was where we went. I didn't speak for the committee, you know, because again, I don't know where all of you are going to go on this. So if anyone has any questions or comments for Bill, we'll just kind of go down the line. I'll start with you, Kristen.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the update. I agree, like answered so many of the questions. What was the reason that and I'm sorry if you mentioned this, the primary reason that PAR gave for the price differential? Just economic, or was there something they missed?
The few factors that contributed to the, I wouldn't even say it was a cost overrun. We could save costs it was the timing, the schedule, the operating company of the golf course. Their preference obviously was to have the system installed in their low busy period, if you will. So basically, we gave them a window from late fall to early spring to work. The golf course irrigation companies, the installation companies, would prefer to operate in their slow period, which is the summer months. So some of that savings that we would realize would be having a moving installation process while the golf course was open on the varying holes. So that was one of the larger savings features that we could have seen. The other was we initially had the design installing all the erosion protection around the wetlands. As you know, there's a wetlands in the middle of the golf course. We originally assumed that would all be installed at the onset of the project. So there could be some savings if we had some movable irrigation or erosion controls that followed the construction activity around. I spoke with Melissa Danza, and she seemed to think that was something that the commission could have for a modification to the permit that's been issued. And so between those two things, those were the significant bulk of the $140,000 savings. There were some other peripheral ancillary things that weren't amounting to a lot of money. It was a lot of little detail kind of things. So that's the bulk of it in a nutshell.
And that 140 has not come off the additional 400, or are you saying yes? You're asking potentially asking for 400 more already taking into account that 140 in savings?
So the 140 would bring it down, but we would need an irrigation pump, which would bring it up 200. So we're netting up an increase of 60,000. Taking the low bid and the next low bid price, we thought we needed a little bit of a buffer, so we're saying 900,000 is what is needed.
I'll move on to others, and this is obviously my first reaction, so take it for what it's worth. I don't have an opinion yet. But the timing that you mentioned, yes, that's a hit to revenue, and it makes it difficult to move things around. But if that would save money, it seems like taking a one-time hit for the long run might be better if it can bring our costs down. That's my initial, again, very uneducated thought. So the only other thing I'll throw out, and again, because this is new, is that we've talked in the past about, last year, we talked about potentially, eventually CPC recouping some funds from the profit being made from the golf course. I think last year there was questions. I'm not sure if we ever got finality as to whether or not we could take that money back. So we didn't reach consensus on whether or not the CPC could actually see some of that money come back through the revenue of the golf course. And then and I don't think we drove that to completion. What's interesting though is the town was considering putting forward an article this year to actually start taking, I believe, some of the golf course revenues into the general fund. If that's allowed, then I'd like to, before we consider that, revisit the topic of CPC helping fund this project, which obviously I think the town has shown they care about, and we've already invested a ton into it, but, providing some protection as well to the CPC funds. That, again, all of this is like coming off of just, the presentation. So if any of that is crazy, that was just my initial reaction.
So I think the article that you were talking about, Kristen, was pulled from the fall town meeting.
It was pulled, but.
Right, but that's not to say it's not going to come back at some point. I agree.
Right.
Yeah, it was anything over, I think it was 75,000.
It just seems like, given our discussions in the past, where we were like, hey, can't we work something out, that before we go putting it into the general fund, it would be logical to pursue that conversation more. I mean, my initial gut reaction is, gosh, we've invested so much into this right now. Like, let's get this thing over the finish line, but let's be, as economically savvy as we can.
Okay. Thank you. Ellen?
Sorry, that was an unfortunate noise. Agreed. Thank you for the update, for the memo. It's really helpful to have all of this information. Kind of on a process side, either for Bill or for us, what is the role of the golf course committee in figuring out some of the next steps here?
So that was actually one of the questions we were going to ask is, has the golf course committee been brought into this conversation, and have they commented, Bill?
I haven't had those conversations. My understanding is the town administrator has had conversations with the golf course committee, or at least the chair of the golf course committee. So presumably they know the current status. I believe we shared this memo with them so that, everybody knows what's going on. It's the best I can tell you.
Sure, thank you. And then I think just kind of trying to understand, looking at the report from Irrigation Consulting, just trying to square kind of everything they wrote about the original bid or the bid documents that PAR put together, and kind of not looking to place blame anywhere, but just trying to figure out kind of how they can come to such different conclusions about what was needed, about things that seem pretty fundamental to this, around the need for like a pump station. Just kind of how can we sort of figure out what's actually needed when these two groups came to such different descriptions of what was needed?
Well, I believe PAR did know that a pump station was needed, but they were operating under the parameters that they had a finite budget, and they knew that the pump station cost would put that above. So they were viewing that as a second phase, perhaps. With regard to a lot of the detail that irrigation consulting identified in the bid documents. PAR is more of a true civil engineer, and irrigation consulting is a specialty niche kind of firm. And so that's where that discrepancy lies. And again, the scheduling was more courtesy to the operator of the golf course. So that was a parameter that was put on by the town at the time. And the other major cost was the pump. So between the pump and the erosion control. Conventional design does have all erosion control installed at the onset of a project. So every project I've ever done for the past 30 to 40 years, we've always installed all the erosion control around. So this was new to me, where irrigation consulting suggested pulling those erosion controls around with the project. So, like I said, Melissa seemed receptive to that. So if it's a cost savings, I'm all for it.
Great, thank you. Oh, and then just to follow up on that. So again, this is very much not my area of expertise. So as you mentioned that PAR might have seen the pumping station as kind of a second phase. Would the system have been operable without that?
It would operate, but it would not be as efficient as it should be. The original design, which was laid out, the concept was laid out through a firm that the golf management company is associated with. So that original concept was kind of put forth for PAR to follow. So PAR followed that concept. They prepared the base plan details, including wetland delineation, and the bid documents themselves, pointing out that they thought that a pump was required to operate this properly. But they kind of followed a roadmap, if you will, of what was conceptualized through the golf committee or through the operator of the golf course.
Can I ask one follow-up question on that? Sure. Just one related follow-up question. When you say that without the pump, with the pump, it's more efficient. Without the pump, does that mean we're seeing equipment fail faster? We're seeing higher energy costs? Like what's the trade-off in the pump versus efficiency?
Yeah, it's not so much the energy cost. It's the spread of the water. The pressure of the water is inadequate in Lattisquama Road to cast the water as far as it needs to be casted. It will still operate, but it won't be efficient by having the spread it needs to have to properly irrigate the course.
Thank you.
Anything
it.
else? Okay,
Yep,
great.
thank you.
Grant?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the update, Bill. Obviously, it's not good news. And just to know, I believe, well, we have a different membership now, but at the time I had been the only member of the committee to vote against the project, primarily due to cost, but also a belief at the time that, I still share that the golf course was acquired, and at the time it was kind of sold as being potentially self-funding in the future. So I guess my main question for tonight is just in terms of the ask of this committee. Is it, so obviously in your memo, you highlighted the time constraint, right? December 1st is not going to work out essentially based on current conditions, but essentially, are you requesting additional funds here, potentially a new town meeting article to supplement the existing authorization, or kind of getting at what on your end you would like to see to, I guess, complete the project given the revised conditions that we have here?
Yeah, I don't have the authority to request additional funds. That would have to come through the golf committee or perhaps the select board. I am here simply to update the committee, solicit feedback and input, see if there is a palette for funding additional scope, and then carrying that forward to either the golf committee or the town administrator, most likely. Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks.
Great. Claire, do you have any questions or comments for Bill?
Yeah, I think everything that has been brought up so far, particularly what Kristen said about the fact that there may be extra money that the golf course generates that you should take a look at. And if there's going to be additional costs in order to resolve this, however it gets resolved, it should come from those funds as far as I'm concerned. It just seems to me, and all the comments which will be in the minutes, I think should be considered. It seems to me, and I don't know, Bill, at what stage of the game you got involved with this, except at the last minute, when, just as you said, you've just been, you're just pitching in your knowledge that you have. It just seems to me that there's quite a few different entities who have been involved with this over the last 3 years. And it's kind of surprising that this is being brought up now. Am I missing something here?
No, I think you're spot on. By the time I got involved, PAR had been contracted and the ball had been set in motion. I struggled to find a really detailed cost estimate as to where these numbers originally came from. And I couldn't, I like to substantiate, where we're headed and what we're doing. And I really struggled to try and reproduce the original estimate. Couldn't figure out how they came up with the numbers. So, I think that's part of the problem we have here. So.
And I thought that's what you were going to say, because I didn't know the timing on it, but it just seems like when you have so many people involved, or different entities, so to speak, that this was inevitable, that something like this was going to happen. I hate to be the doomsayer, but it was kind of the writing on the wall. But thank you for that, all of your feedback. That's it. That's all I really
you,
have to
Claire.
say.
Thank you. So I have a few things. So, and I think Claire had, just had this conversation with Bill about this. I mean, the applicant to this project was the golf course committee. So I think that we should be having a conversation with them. And I think Bill has brought us some really great information to consider, but I certainly would like to hear from them. I wanted to also say that we have been lucky to this point with the golf course. Last year was very wet. So we get a dry year and the revenues that they're getting may not be as plentiful as they've been in the past. A couple other things are on the pump station. Is that something that is going to need approval from SVT, who holds the CR? And is this even allowed in the CR, via the CR, to have the pump station? I don't know if, Bill, if that question has even been asked.
It hasn't, but my understanding on the scope of the conservation restriction is that this is an allowable activity.
Okay, well, we can verify that. Just, again, I don't want there to be problems at the 11th hour of wherever we end up on this. So another thing I'd like to see is an analysis of the revolving fund from inception. I'm just curious, again, because CPC has put so much money in and is being asked to put another $400,000 in, which I understand, but I, for one, am just curious, before we release any more funds, how those funds have been spent over time. And which leads to the point that Kristen brought up, that we had talked about in the past about, can there be some payback on this? And I think that's something we need to explore. And Freddie, I'll ask you, is this a question that we should go to council on, or is this something we should ask the coalition initially?
I can ask the coalition to start. I have a call with Stuart sometime this week. He was on vacation, but what came up was some legal lease in the act itself about getting outside money in that we couldn't do, but I think that was for a bond payment, and it's not clear that you couldn't set up something different. Not clear, like how, I mean, creative in the most honest sense of finding a way to use funds that at least the select board thought there was going to be money over 75K, but not only that, up to the 75K, what is the, Lisa asked for past use? What is the future needs of the revolving fund? Because if they're putting it towards something that can be delayed, it's not critical, then maybe some of that money, because obviously there's a thought that there's at least 75K a year coming into that fund. And that would go a long ways towards paying a 400K. And you hate to, I'm not advocating for this, but how many years it would take to come up with 400K at the, just pretend 50K a year, because they might need the 25 for something else, right? But just saying, right? We were told before why one of the reasons you funded this, I mean, you moved it forward and then town meeting funded it, is the condition of the current irrigation is in such aging and not really in, maintainable in some ways, that if it breaks, now you're losing not just the little irrigation you have and the revenue that provides by golfers wanting to golf there in the summer, but also, increased costs and loss of revenue. And to me, looking at solutions where the golf course itself can contribute towards this money but not make them wait is a valid approach. So I will look into what legally you can do. I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry, but last year, when this came up and this committee was asking for if the revolving fund could contribute yearly towards the bond payment, and we were told no, because we didn't approve something. Let's see if there's other ways of doing it. I don't know that
Okay.
there are.
Okay, thank you. A couple other things is, so we've set criteria and deadlines in our guidelines. So here we are, the end of January, excuse me. I'm not pushing it too far here. And, we're looking at potentially another project. So, Bill, for you, I'm just going to ask, what is the time frame? I mean, obviously, you've got to have the funds to do this. Is this something that an application could potentially be put together, and if the committee is willing to be, considered potentially for a fall town meeting? I don't know if that's doable to you, because I'm just asking.
The installation is relatively straightforward and simple, frankly. We could even construct it this coming construction season if we had the funding. So if we even hit annual town meeting, we probably could get this out to bid, rebid it, and get a contractor and set up to do it this season. So that being said, funding is really the limiting factor here more than the schedule. And if we get into a fall town meeting, then we're going to look at next construction season, certainly.
So has the town, obviously knowing that there's an issue, has the town been looking at or discussing other ways of funding this if besides CPC?
I'm not sure. That would be a question for the town administrator. I'm more the boots on the ground guy than the funding guy. So I really don't know.
So I guess for me, there's a lot of still outstanding questions, which could potentially take us to our next meeting, which we're soon going to set, which again is putting us close to, if there's the potential to do a warrant article, if there is, we're really under the gun once again in trying to put something together. And considering, I think the warrant is being signed, I think it was the 17th. We just talked about this at planning board. It's like mid-March, but it has to be to town council before it has to be reviewed and everything. So I don't know, even if we wanted to consider this, if there's any way to do it for annual town meeting. I think that that ship unfortunately has sailed, in my opinion. But again, I'm happy to hear what everybody else's thoughts on this. And that's going to be the question I'm going to go down the line is, you know, if you want to explore this more, do you think there's any way with what we've heard tonight and the questions we've heard tonight from everybody, is there any possible way that something like this could be done for a annual town meeting? So we'll just go down the line and then I'll come to you, Freddie, for anything else you may want to add as well.
So a couple, I guess, administrative questions first. We weren't going to do anything this summer anyways, right? Because the original plan was to avoid the on season. So my question is, if this came to a special town meeting, which we're pretty sure it's gonna happen. And we have a couple items now that we might want to see there.
Yep.
When would the funds be? And let's just say we, like, in a perfect scenario, I think the ideal is that we work out a way that we can help provide some funds, but get some of those funds back. That just makes perfect logical sense. So I hope, you know, our bylaws and laws support that. If funds, whatever those funds were appropriated in a special fall town meeting, when do they become available?
Go ahead.
I'll have to check on the different accounts, but typically your fiscal year 27 funds are available after July 1st and before after July 1st. That's why we put money in the, and I've talked about this before, this is a case where we put money in the discretionary account so that if there's a fall town meeting, you can, after the tax rate or for some reason has been set, that you can use those monies. But I'll have to double check with accounting to be sure. But some of our funds are from prior years. And now we're trying to use the current year, like bond payments. We're using that out of anticipated funds, so we don't have a lot of money from the current year hanging out there. So I think you're good, but, you know, and then if it's bonding, that's a whole nother story. But I will double check on exactly timing.
Thank you. So that's important, I think, getting any initial feel we can get in terms of the receiving back funds is key. Obviously, I agree. I don't think we can make this town meeting. And I think the goal would be special town meeting with those questions answered. The only thing weighing on me is like, all right, so then how does this like weigh into the financial considerations for the two other articles up? And I don't know the answer to that right now.
If I may?
Yeah.
Any projects you're thinking of potentially having coming forth for fall town meeting?
Or even just this upcoming town meeting. So the rec article and the.
What I'm saying is, yes, for anything for the fall town meeting, you have to look at funding it out of the balances for this town
As if we were.
meeting.
doing it,
So you need to set it aside to be able to fund it.
Yeah.
And whether, if you move it forward one way or the other. So just saying you can't spend it down below the amount you think you may wish to allocate,
That makes sense.
you know.
Okay.
Thank you. Ellen?
Yeah, I agree. I think I keep tracking what the date is. Too late, I think, is the conclusion I'm coming to. That, and I think to Kristen's point that if, you know, the construction wasn't planned during the summer anyway, then, you know, everyone kind of running around to get something in place for annual town meeting, to get it done this summer doesn't necessarily save time from on their original timeline. So I think just kind of given where it sounds like conversations are with the golf committee, that they would need to be the ones, or the select board, to put an article together. I think there's just too much that needs to be done. And I think we also want to make sure we have a really solid budget, because if it's going to be another 400,000, then that's what should go forward. If it's potentially going to be more than that, then I think we need to know that. So I don't think rushing makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Grant?
Yeah, I agree that I don't think it makes sense for this meeting. Just, I will say that because it's an existing project that did have money approved, I would be open to being lenient for a fall town meeting coming back. And so, I think I've advocated that the committee have kind of a two-track or, twice annual cycle anyway. And I think that's kind of, maybe getting a bit more towards that makes sense for stuff like this. But I agree that I don't think it really makes sense to get on this town meeting. And the other thing, I think we would need a revised application as
Yes.
well. Could be easy to revise, right?
Yeah.
Just if it's a cost estimate, or maybe there won't be a lot of scope change, that kind of thing. But just updated plans or revised application part of it.
Great, thank you. Claire?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a different take on this. I think we need to keep in mind that we have a big investment in the golf course. I think that Bill has kind of wrapped his arms around what the problem is, time frame. And I would be surprised. I think some of the taxpayers would be surprised if we didn't act on this. I understand the timeframes, and having been through one cycle on this before, but I think we should push ahead. Personally, I think we should push ahead on this.
Okay, thank you, Claire. So I also think that there just isn't time, as I said. I think that there's a lot of questions. Why don't we quickly put together, Kristen, what are the things that, and I think first off, let me just say, I think we need to invite the golf course committee and Bill back to our next meeting so we can continue exploring this. And Grant, I agree with you that, the application is there, so that's what makes sense for the fall as well. So thank you for adding that. But Kristen, what is your takeaway that you'd like to have, the information you'd like to have for our next meeting?
To the best of your ability, because I understand we're dependent on other people for these answers, but the two things that we noted, well, I guess three things. One, is there any other source of funding within the town that should be considered prior to CPC? Like what's this, I guess, where does the select board and town accountant and town administrator fall there? Two would be, again, having a better sense either, well, both from town council as well as the state, in terms of we have CPC funding that we'd like to help see a project go through. However, we'd like to see some of the revenues come back to the CPC, which again, seems so logical that hopefully that's not, to think it could go into the town's general fund, but not back to the funding source would be kind of crazy, but we'll find out. I understand that gets into legalities and we might not have a firm answer, but like an idea if it's a total like no way showstopper, or yeah, this is something we need to kick around some more in terms of feasibility. And then there was a third item that we discussed. I cannot think of. Oh, I guess maybe just back to Bill and the golf course committee in terms of the savings. It sounds like the pump kind of sounds like a necessity if we're not going to be watering, enough of the land. But if we could move the project to, during the season, what does this save us? Because at this point, anything helps. So like, just to Ellen's point, really, like, how comfortable are we with this number? Because we weren't, let's make sure that this time, and I don't think they are because they're consultants, as Bill said, they're specialties, but we're not cutting any corners that we're going to come back later and say, oh, we really shouldn't have cut that corner.
Yep.
So just comfort that this is a good number.
Okay, Ellen, anything you'd like to add to that, to the list?
No, I agree with that list. I guess this is also a bit of a process question, but so there are a lot of pieces that the consultants pointed out in terms of disagreements they had with the scope that PAR put together. And so I don't know if it's possible to get a more complete scope as part of putting together the revised estimate. Because there's a lot here. And so I don't know what the process would then be if there is additional funding to then go back out to an engineering firm and get another, bid document drawn up. Are they going to come to a third set of ideas about what needs to be in this scope? So I feel like as far as we can go down that path, I have no idea how much that costs or if you can do that before having funding line up. But I'm just, concerned that there's so many differences in what PAR and what the consultants thought were necessary for this project. That I think as much detail as we can have on like what the essentials are. Because as Kristen said too, if we're putting $900,000 in this and it's still, working to 2/3 of its capacity, I'm not sure that's the best use of the money. So.
Great, thank you, Grant.
Yeah, not much to add from what others said. The only other thing is that I would have to take a look at our budget, but I'm curious, I can't remember exactly what bucket the money came out of, whether or not it was open space / recreation, or if it was the general, and kind of just in terms of figuring out, I mean, that would be much later down the line, but in terms of trying to plan for the other projects that we have, where would this money essentially come from? Which bucket would it come from? That kind of thing. But I don't really have anything else to add to that list.
Okay, so you're talking about where the prior 553 came from?
Yes,
Grant,
and I
so
guess,
It's in Bill's memo. He has the article at the from the CPA fund balance.
which is the general.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
So thank you. And also I will add that I would like to know that the SVT is going to have no issue in the CR with the pump station. And I'd like to see the analysis of the revolving fund, and it can just be as simple as accounting, printing out a ledger, just showing, what's come out. But I think it'd be prudent on our part to, to see that as well. So.
And I'll just note there, I would like to see other details in the application because it's been a few years. So a revised application would give us a lot of details, especially for members who haven't been on the committee.
Okay.
In terms of stuff like community support, need, all the other things that we look at, which may or may not have changed from a couple of years ago.
Okay, that's fine. We will, and Bill, I'll send to you and the golf course committee the application that can be revised. They should have it, but I'll send it anyway.
Thank you.
We can get that revised. And Bill, our next meeting, I don't know when it is. We haven't got that far tonight. I will, myself or Freddie will send you a note letting you know when our next meeting is, inviting you and the golf course committee as well to come.
Thank you.
So I hope this was some level of helpful. I wasn't a no, so
No,
I
I
think that's
know.
positive. Just a
I
lot of
think
questions.
forward movement, one way or the other, is always good.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time and thank you for all that you and the DPW did, through this last storm and.
I'll tell you, the guys, they're troopers putting, it was literally a 48-hour storm that they had to address. And still, as you know, there's significant cleanup that's ongoing.
I just want to interject too. So we all know our unofficial news source, or one of them is the Southborough Community Share and Care on Facebook. And, your guys take some beatings there, and we all see you're looking to hire, I saw you out there all night, I heard you out there all night, and I'm on a little side street. So please understand the majority of us, not behind anonymous, really appreciate everything you guys are doing and understand the effort is there. So thank you.
And I
I'll
will
relay that. Thank you.
And I will just add as well that Bill and Chris Leroy Monday night were on a Zoom
Yeah.
for the planning
I
board.
couldn't believe
And then
that.
they left to go finish plowing some more. So yeah, they had a 2-hour tree hearing.
Chris looked tired.
He
I
did
felt so
look
bad
tired.
for him.
So just know that Bill, we appreciate everything that you're doing and making it here tonight as well. Your plate is overflowing at this point with another storm coming as well. So thank you.
Thank
Please
you.
go get a good night's sleep and thank you again.
Appreciate it. Bye.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, we have Peninsula Trail update. Kat was here at our December 18th meeting, I believe it was. Kat, why don't you come on up? There was some information that we were looking for. I'm just trying to pull it together. And I know that the Trails Committee met last night. I don't know if any of this was discussed. I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to watch it. So, you know, any updates that you can provide us? Thank you. Yes, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Send her a picture. There you go. Kristen's going to text her a picture.
Thank you. And apologies for not getting this earlier. We've been quite busy. So,
I don't know if your microphone's on. Jocelyn, is her microphone on? Okay, thank you.
is
Sorry.
it on? Okay. Okay, so we thank you for your time initially. Appreciate taking the time to put us on the agenda and for discussing the project, what we're trying to accomplish. So just reminding us all, what we're doing is after our December bid, we're regrouping to decide on how to approach funding a project, the Phase 2 project, which is the boardwalk and the pedestrian bridge. So what we have here today is a more concise ask of what we'd like to do and see what's possible. So we're asking for things. We don't know if we can do all of it. We're looking for the committee's guidance on how to approach this in the form of a warrant article request to use remaining funds from Phase 1 and put it into Phase 2 bucket. And to essentially, I'm going to try to articulate this carefully and clearly because it's a little complicated. So we'd like to move Phase 1 money to Phase 2 and be able to move forward with Phase 2 in this way. Prioritize building the bridge. If we can do both the bridge and the boardwalk, great. If we can't do the boardwalk and bridge, we want to be able to potentially use the funding for a Mass Trails grant in 2027. Stop there and let us take that in. So what we're trying to do is build in some flexibility with transparency, but within a structure that works for town, CPC, and the project. So that's overall what we want to do.
This is helpful. Thank you.
Yep, go ahead, Freddie. I'm
So-
trying to pull.
I have a call in with Stuart at the coalition to review both warrant articles and the applications to determine if we have, as we discussed at our last meeting, if it's required to have a town meeting vote to move the money from Phase 1 to Phase 2. And second, to do less of the project than was presented in Phase 2, which, just so you know, neither of these were Phase 1 and Phase 2 when they were originally, it's just how they've been called to differentiate between the two. So one, to move money from Phase 1 to be used towards Phase 2, which, and then second, if you can reduce the scope of Phase 2 without, and would that need a town meeting vote? So it came up with another project where something was proposed and not done, and it was done appropriately because the warrant article was changed on town meeting floor. So the vote was correct, but people remember the original proposal. So and that just came up recently. So we want to be really clear that whatever you do is legally correct for the projects and warrant articles for what the townspeople voted on. They need to be assured that they're getting what they thought they were. But A lot of it depends on how the warrant articles were written and having Stuart review them. He was out, so I'm still waiting for a call back from him. And I will add in some other stuff from tonight too.
Okay, so one of the first issues I see, Kat, is the original article for the 211,000 has to be completed by December 1st, 2026. So that's
Yeah, we,
our first concern.
right, we asked in our original
Right.
request in December about a timeline extension, which would be,
So my question is, because town meeting voted only through December, do we have to go back and ask town meeting to extend it, or is that within our purview to do that? Because it says specifically, if the funds aren't used by December 1st, they're to be returned to the Southborough Community Preservation Fund balance. So that's another question I have. I imagine that we're gonna have to go back to town meeting, but and I also imagine, and again, Freddie, I know you're gonna talk to Stuart, but I imagine also for phase one, to apply it to phase two is different than the vote was, so that's gonna have to go back to town meeting. But on phase one, the remaining funds of the 47,000, is the signage already out of that number? All the signage has been done and paid for and,
yes, so we've
Okay.
done everything and we used all the other funds, so we haven't used any of the
Okay.
CPC phase one funds.
okay,
There's a tiny little caveat, which I'm trying to run to ground with accounting, and this is it. So we were able to apply for 2,200, we'll say, of the funding that we had used for ARPA, because we had a little bit of a balance available for Mass Trails. So it's kind of unallocated funding that's coming back to the town. So the question is, in that case, can Trails use that money and allocate it towards the project? Or does the town absorb that money as just bonus? So I've put a call to
Yeah.
Carla to figure that out. So the question is, if the answer is yes, we can allocate that returning money to this invoice that we have for 2,400, then we'll do that with that money. But
okay,
if we can't, then there's 2,400 that we need to pay for out of phase one funds. But
Okay.
I'll know that hopefully tomorrow, but.
okay.
Is that a phase one project expense?
Phase one.
So I guess my second question to you is, we've kind of talked about the rush to annual town meeting now. Is this something that we could work towards, get all of our answers to for a fall town meeting?
No, pretty please.
Okay,
The reason I ask no is a number of, we do have to slow down. So that's why we're going for a Mass Trails Grant 2027. So we can really slow down, make sure we redo our approach and get this right
yeah,
this time. So we don't want to wait for town meeting in the fall for a number of reasons. We would have found town meeting doesn't happen in the fall. I mean, there's a lot of variables that would cause us concern to wait. And we want to know, we need to know ahead of time. And March would be a great head of time because it's already delaying, having to wait until then. What funding we have to work with, because if we have to wait, then we're all, it's just too many unknowns that we're trying to pin them down. And
Okay.
make it less. So that's why we would request,
so
spring.
just so I'm clear on the ask, the main ask is to use phase one for phase two.
Yep.
That's the main ask, obviously to change and extend the date for phase two as well. So are those the two main asks that you would be looking for an annual town meeting?
Sort of so this is the complication where yes, phase one to phase two, yes on timeline.
Yeah,
But we would also, I think, as Freddie has pointed out, need to write within the warrant article that if we were going to use it for matching funds, we need to identify that. So the town fully understands what they're voting on and the potential of what could be done with the funding.
go ahead. I was just gonna turn to you.
So the issue there, as I understand it, is if you use phase one, move that over, and you have the phase two funds, you still don't have enough for the complete phase two that was presented at town meeting.
Right.
And If you don't, you're using an application to the Mass Trails Grant to complete Phase 2 as presented as already fully funded,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
The original warrant article was for a full project. So it's not as simple, if you don't get that funding, then the project's not completed. You're adding funding to complete it. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's a different project scope that, in addition to applying for the grant, you could end up without the full count. I mean, the warrant article will have to, may have to, depends on what Stuart says, right? May have to identify that you have a different project scope, a lesser project for the same amount of money,
Yes.
and that there's a potential for maybe in the future, maybe, getting more funds to complete it, but the original allocated funds are not going to cover the full project.
Correct. So we would be asking for for what funds were allocated for phase 2 for the best the minimal outcome would be a bridge, right? That we can build a bridge. If we can't build a bridge with what we have, so it is changing the scope.
Are you saying you may not be able to even build the bridge?
No,
I thought you said if,
I'm not trying to say that.
I know you're not trying to.
Feels like it's coming out.
It sounded like you
Yeah.
said,
There's a chance.
Yeah, well, no, what we're trying to do
Depends
is
on
we have to
how-
focus, like, we have to change the scope, to your point, from a bridge and a boardwalk, what the town originally voted on, to
Mhm.
just a bridge. So that is correct. So
so you have enough funds in Phase 2 to complete the bridge?
yes,
Okay.
well, we hope so. Yes.
If they forgo other.
Because the problem with saying absolutely certain is that we've been here before, twice. Okay, so we're trying to get a sense and really focusing our energies on how much is it going to cost, and knowing those costs as certain as we can before we go to bid. And we don't have that certainty today, so you won't hear that certainty from me today. And we're trying to confirm it. We're pretty certain, but it's not 100%.
Just to make this clear, there's a potential if we move the funds over from Phase 1, change the scope of Phase 2 to just the bridge, there may not be enough money to complete the new scope that we will be asking town meeting to vote on.
There's a potential, yes.
Okay.
Yep, there is.
You just, and I'm not trying to be hard, I'm just trying to say you need to, the committee, and then to promote it to town meeting, you need to know everything. And also, you know, this is coming without knowing how much of the warrant we have to rewrite for a project. And you're not the only one, we just had the golf
Yep.
course in, so,
Yep.
you know.
No, we will, I mean, we're working to find the numbers. I just got a new quote today. I'm still confused why the bids came in over budget based on those numbers. So we will know well before. You know, I don't know when you need the article written by. Did you?
February, that's what that was. I'm gonna
Yes.
get the exact date because it's going to print, and it's signed and printed. I think it's the 17th and 18th of March.
you need a
So,
month ahead of
but
that?
Freddie, let me ask you this. If we go to town meeting to move Phase 1 to Phase 2, and then we change the scope of Phase 2, and somebody says, well, wait a minute, we approved this for this, now we're taking something out and it's gonna cost more.
Yeah.
There's the opportunity for town meeting to say no.
Yes. there
Okay,
is.
okay, so I
That's
just
why we
wanna
be
put that
really
out there.
Transparent about this.
Yes.
We want to say it all up. front.
I
We're not trying to
agree.
Hide anything.
That was my point, that
Things
that could
cost
come
more.
up
Yeah,
at
yeah,
town meeting,
for
so.
sure. And we want to just
um,
like approach it like we get it.
And that's great. that's
That's what
great.
we're asking, yeah.
So, okay, let's go
But
down the line.
what I'm saying is I think we can have a good number well before mid-February. If you back that March 17th, say that.
No. March 17th goes to print.
Print.
We have to
I
have it
understand. If
February.
you
week,
back
2 weeks
that up
ahead.
a month, it's February 17th, if you give the general counsel and things. So if we have until early February, what I'm trying to share is that I think we can have a good number by then.
What's
So
that
we
gonna
would-
do for you in crafting?
I'm crafty.
I know you're crafty, but
Mhm.
again, we went through this last year. This is why I'm hyper focused on this.
Can I say,
No, I appreciate your focus.
Yep.
knowing in January, still January, you know,
Almost, barely.
we can start to prepare. I can start to prepare, so. Yes. That's the
Okay.
answer.
Okay, so, and I'm gonna go down the line in a second. My only concern is now also, we've taken a position on somebody that came before us for kind of the same thing in a way, late in the game. So, well, they're both different and they stand on two different feet and we're looking for very, very different things from each proponent. I just want us to consider that as well. So we'll go down the line, questions, comments, and if you think it's possible to be able to get it on a warrant for annual town meeting.
And I appreciate your point. I also think this is part of the reason this committee exists, because we get into these situations and then we need to like kind of think about, and like, not everything's it's apples and oranges.
Yeah.
And I kind of see that this way, because if Bill was sitting here and his attitude was different and he was, I'm not saying you're playing, but you've made it clear you really don't want to wait. Where Bill said, you know, time-wise, I think we would have been just as open to working with Bill and trying to see, right? Like, no one's trying to be like, nope, that's it. Like, we've obviously always made ourselves as a committee very available to entertaining things. We do need to draw lines. That was, to me, a very clear line that wasn't going to cause a major disruption. This is something that seems a little bit more doable. Freddie said she's comfortable. I'm going to trust her with that in terms of an administrative standpoint. So I don't see why we wouldn't pursue tonight, continue moving forward. Obviously, it depends on you actually getting that number. And then we see, and then Freddie also getting the answers and we see where we land. But there's no reason to kill it tonight. Or push it tonight. That's the wrong word, I'm sorry, but to defer it. So
Okay.
the only question I have about the options, and I'm sure you covered this, option number 3, where you say construct the footbridge and the boardwalk as a single integrated project, like why, what, that seems like the obvious, but obviously,
Well, if we go for a Mass Trails grant, then we.
oh,
would do
that's
both.
the master, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha,
that,
gotcha.
that's
I'm
the
sorry.
differential there.
So
Like, if we
maybe,
hold off and
oh,
decide.
with the grant leverage, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Because we're so close.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
a perfect Mass Trails grant. And we discussed.
I'm
going after-
sorry, I missed that.
Oh, you're fine. We discussed going after this grant, like, can I pull it together in 5 days and submit on Monday? And we just decided that probably wasn't realistic, even if I used everything from last time, right? So we're just slowing it down a bit. And this is a perfect project, especially if we do decide to wait and we have this funding, if the committee were to agree in the town vote, then we go to Mass Trails grant. It's a wonderful Mass Trails project, right? It's got community support, it's got good match funding, it's shovel ready, all the permits are in place, the engineering costs are done. We just need more funding to go forward. And so it is, we ideally want to do that. We want to do both structures. But we're now asking for flexibility because we see what we want isn't always what we get. So we're trying to build that in.
You done, Kristen? Okay, Ellen?
Thank you for coming in, for putting all of this together. Timing wise, so the 2026 Mass Trails grant cycle, it sounds like, is imminent. So when you're looking at the next cycle would be the beginning of next February. So I guess my question with that is, if this is moving forward through CPC now to get additional phase 2 funding, are those costs going to change between now and the next
Yes.
mass? Yeah.
They will, but I spoke with our bridge quote vendor, and so he provided pricing that would, escalated pricing that would last a 12 month.
Okay.
To help deal with this. Now, what we can't address or work with is more tariffs or things that we can't account for. But they're doing their best.
Great, thank you. And then just to that, so you said you're continuing to get quotes in today, that it sounds like are coming in higher than you're hoping.
Well, no, actually, I was looking at the quote came in. It made me pause because I was like, why are the bids coming in so high? If my quote is so low,
Yeah.
I should have enough money. And what we're learning is the, part of the various components, like the abutments, apparently they can cost more than the bridge. And so those types of things are driving up the costs.
Yeah, so I think that was my question is it coming from the fact that just things are unpredictable and expensive, or there's something not in this original scope that it seems like needs to be in there?
Yeah, and I think if we look back on the budgeting, I think where we were lowballing ourselves or not providing enough budget was the abutments.
Okay.
Because they can cost like $100,000 if the bridge is $80,000. So that's a lot of money to consider. And the other thing is we're looking at where we talked about using lumber. We've determined we can't use all lumber for the bridge because of the way the structural design is. They said it would have to be higher than it needs to be. So talking with the bridge manufacturer, we can use different decking rather than using the polymer decking. We can use a wood decking that would work, and that drives the cost down. With the boardwalk, for example, instead of using 10-foot slash, you can use 25-foot, and that drives the cost down because you need less piers to kind of the structures to support the boardwalk. So there's ways that we're working to kind of drive the cost down to make this. Some of those factors.
Great, thank you. And then I think, just as Lisa mentioned, that there would likely be a conversation at town meeting. So the funds that are left over from phase one, everything that was planned for phase one got done, but you all went out and found other funding sources, which is why there's money left. So I think that's an important part of the
Yeah.
story here is that you went outside and found this funding on your own. And that's why there's this opportunity for the additional funding.
Thank you. And to that point, part of phase two is also changing because we had included, in addition to the boardwalk and the bridge, the ADA parking, we included the paving to the parking. That also got done outside of the CPC funding by other funding. So that piece of the project has already been completed. And used as match.
Great, thank you. That's it for me.
So Ellen, you think this can get done for an annual town meeting?
I think so.
Okay.
I agree with Kristen that there are on the surface some similarities between the conversation we just had. But I think just where the Trails Committee is in this process, and the amount of conversations we've had with Kat over the last few months, this feels to me like something that can go forward. And I agree that Freddie saying that she's comfortable with it, you know, is lovely.
I said I can do it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Grant?
Yeah, I think I mentioned at our last meeting that I'm in support of the project and kind of advancing as we can. One of my questions is in terms of the grant. I'm wondering why that language needs to be included in the warrant article. Like, I know.
As match, you mean?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about, for example, on a historical project where CPC funds something, and then you can, after you get the money or something, you could still apply for like a Mass Historical Commission grant and get it and potentially get money there, but that didn't need to be in an like a CPC warrant article to apply for a grant elsewhere, I don't think. So I'm just wondering.
Did you use the CPC money as a match?
Well, I haven't done it since I've been on the committee, but I know that CPC funding is eligible for. So I'm just curious if we need to actually include that language in, or if she can just apply for grants as she sees fit and hopefully get additional money. I don't.
The reason was because the project scope changed if you got the grant, and then the CPC money would be used for something different. So you can't have your phase one, all of the funds that were CPA funding covered a full project. So if you need to use it for a match and expand the project, now it's a new project.
Okay. not sure I totally get that, but
So she wanted a bigger project, but couldn't fund it.
as part of phase 2 or phase 1?
Phase one, phase one.
But we're talking, okay. I think,
So we're at a new project now.
Yep.
And if you want to go to town meeting and say, we're not going to do the full scope, the only chance you have of doing the full scope is to get additional funding. So you can do that. You can ask the CPC to write a warrant article that is asking town meeting to spend not only the full amount for a lesser project, but also all of the money from phase one almost added into it with no full, complete boardwalk assurance, right?
so my question for you, Freddie, is, I guess, in terms of the process here, she's trying to essentially spend phase 1 on phase 2, the excess 47,000. In terms of moving forward to town meeting, what does that look like? Is it a new,
I
how
won't
we
know.
say, phase 3 project, which is
No,
transferring 1 to 2?
no, I wouldn't call
Or
it
is it
phase
just
three.
revising?
It's
the-
revising.
Yeah.
It's revising. I think whatever year that was, what we're calling phase two.
2021 is phase one.
You're revising the scope of it. You're
Yep.
changing funding from phase one, which was completed. The reason for the match funding language is you're not spending the CPA money on the project, you're spending it on a bigger project, correct? That makes sense? No. All right. If,
So my
Can I ask
understanding
a
is
question
the
that might be?
grant would be used for the phase 2, option 3, which, oh, I see, because it includes the boardwalk, whereas what you're trying to do is only the bridge.
Right.
Okay,
if you want to say we're only doing the bridge and we want all this money plus phase one money to do just the bridge, I think it gives, you could do that. And now you don't have money for a match because you're not doing the boardwalk. You need to be upfront with the townspeople.
I see.
And this leads how we looked at it the first time was it leads the potential to do more with the same amount of funding if you get the grant. But that was my other question for you. How is the match used? So this is how my recollection of the Trails grant, I'm not on the Trails Committee, but I believe like other state grants, you have to have the money already appropriated before they give you the grant. The match, you have to have that already. So
I'm trying to remember, did we, when we submitted our Mass Trails grant last time, I thought it was that we, I can't exactly remember.
I believe
what year it
I believe the schedule is that they announced the grant in the summer
Yes,
and you had the CPA funding in the spring.
right, but I think we had to submit on February 2nd.
You had to
and it
submit,
was-
right.
Right, and I don't think the town had voted.
They hadn't, but they didn't decide until after the town meeting vote.
Right.
Anyhow, the point is, if you're going to use, why my concern about the 2027,
Uh-huh.
you need the funds in play to match a project that you're going to apply for after you've started and used all the funds that you have of CPA money before you get the grant.
We're going to use all the CPC funds before the match, before we can use it as match, you mean, if we build the bridge?
Build the bridge, you're planning to do that before 2027, right?
Right, so you're saying if we build the bridge and use the money, we don't have match money?
Correct.
Potentially, yes.
So you don't
That's why
have,
the committee, we need the flexibility to make the decision of whether we want to, do we want to move forward with the bridge? Or can we hold off and use the funds for matching and do the whole project?
I have
all
a
right,
question.
let me just,
yeah.
this is nitty gritty stuff, but so you're saying you won't start doing anything until you apply in 2027 to see if you get that match? To see if you get the Trails grant?
I wouldn't say we wouldn't do anything. What we're doing in the meantime is, well, hopefully by the beginning of February, we know exactly how much the bridge should cost. Bridge, abutment, all the, and anything super secret extra that might come up, right? And we get a number. And then from that number, we decide, okay, we don't have enough to cover it. And we need to go to Mass Trails grant, or we have enough to cover it. And we decide, like, if what we're doing is reducing costs enough that we have a balance left over after the bridge, then can that be applied to the grant? So we're just looking for how much flexibility can we have to make some of these decisions when we don't know all the information just yet.
So my response is, if you're looking for flexibility between now and February, yeah. But you don't have flexibility after the warrant articles, it needs to be written.
Right, that's why we're
Okay.
trying to write the article in a way that will provide some flexibility so we have some choices within.
So-
That's why applying for the Mass Trails grant, this system would give you the knowledge of what you can fund or not. I don't know. I mean, how are you gonna, if you don't have any funding left to use as a match for the Mass Trails grant,
Then we won't go after a Mass Trail.
and then you can't complete the project
We won't
as,
do the boardwalk, yeah.
so you need to put that in the warrant article.
Right.
We're getting into scenarios, and I really, some of this is hypothetical, because just what if this is a decision of the CPC and not a, I don't think it is, but if it is, I won't know till I talk to Stuart, and I can send an email out as soon as I find that out, but you can also, you know, discuss this more in detail in February, but when you come back in February, you need to know all of these types of things, like what exactly are you going to be able to do with the amount of funding you have? Because you can't really write a warrant article that is, well, maybe we'll do this and maybe we'll do that. And, you know, and that's why we wrote the match in. It gave us more flexibility by saying you will apply for the state grant. And if you get that, you will do this. The difference here is you already have an approved project that it seems like you are not going to be able to complete as voted on with the funds you have, plus the funds from the other grant. So, you know, you can write the warrant article to say that project's over and we have a new project with this new funding with less
So,
attributes.
so my question is procedurally, if we think that there's an issue with, let's just say people have an issue with, okay, that those funds are used for phase one, which is completely different, and we shouldn't be transferring them over to phase two, or if we think that might face political resistance or whatever, would it be cleaner to essentially return the funds from phase one, because it's excess 47,000, and just put forward a new warrant article saying appropriating $47,010 for the purposes of, and then at town meeting, we can explain they returned some money and essentially we're changing the use. That's just another way of potentially doing it if we.
You could do that. It doesn't address the issue. Sorry, that's just how you're,
Actually, that's a lot easier to understand.
right, that's how you would do
I
it.
think it
That's
gets
how
rid
you
of
would
some
do
of
it.
the confusion about, oh, this was phase one, then we had to, you know,
Just
it's
keep
done,
going.
but it's not done because we're trying to, I mean, I think it could kind of separate things that way.
You can separate it how you want, and that would be a great way of transferring the funding, maybe. But the issue remains, you're putting it to a project that is not the same project that was voted on.
It would be voting on, so essentially you'd be voting on a new project, which would essentially match the scope of phase two with the
No, it wouldn't.
revisions. With the revisions that we're talking about, right?
The big issue is phase two is not the same project substantially, right? It's a substantial change to have a bridge and a boardwalk be changed to just a bridge. That's how people would look at it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, how do you, I'm trying to think, how do you address that? You can't just pretend, oh, we voted on a bridge and a boardwalk and now we're just getting a bridge.
So would
can't
you-
build a-
So regardless, you would need two warrant articles, one to deal with the phase one matter and the other to deal with the scope of phase two?
I don't know
we-
how it, I don't know if it has to be two. I'm,
Maybe a lot clearer.
I like this
cleaner
idea a lot.
what?
The separation, I
Yeah,
think we,
agree.
we've, if anything we've learned is that this is very confusing and it's hard to
Yeah.
explain. It really is. So if there's something without a lot of effort from the committee that would help, simplify it.
I mean, for me, I don't know if it's just me, but for me, I find it simpler, I guess, to have phase two, change it as you want it, and then see if town meeting approves it. And then procedurally, I find it easier to return the money and then ask for new money for an exact matching scope of what you were asking for in the phase two one. And then everything matches. So technically it'd be two separate projects, but the 47,000 would be for a new project, which matches the new scope that you would be asking for in phase two.
You
I don't know
would
if that's any-
also have to have a warrant article to get rid of the existing project. Phase
And
two.
Launch a new project.
You'd have to have two articles, one to get rid of phase one to get rid of phase two, and now you have a new
Close.
What,
project.
you mean
You don't need a
Return
wa-
the money for both.
return?
Do you need a warrant article to close a project? If their funds are
Return.
closed out? I thought we have the authority to do that. We determine if it's closed out and if a project's done.
I believe, let me double check, but I believe there's a dollar amount associated with that. Under a certain amount, we can just vote, and over a certain amount, it goes back to town meeting.
Yeah, we went through that before.
We've dealt with this, so.
Okay.
My, I really will have to look at this, and also I'll talk with Stuart, because it would be nice if I'd had the answers ahead of time, but, for clarity, you can't have town meeting vote on a project and then give them something else for the same amount of money, and in this case, for more money, right? Can't say you're building
No, I
a
think we're all on the
school.
same page though.
Yeah,
there.
I think it's just
Yeah.
how to make
How to make it
Yeah.
work.
How to make it work, as far as where I'm approaching it is not the issue. It's like the content of what she's trying to accomplish
Yeah.
for me is the issue. Because I'm hearing that you may not even be able to do the full bridge.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother story
We're going to know that though.
in February. But we need all of these things weighed out. So my suggestion is, instead of going around and around, is to come, how you want to move the funds, and I will get advice on how to do it best, because there might be, reasons why you have to do it a certain way. The thing is, by February, you need to have certain things answered, and I don't know all of those. So if I can do the conversation with Stuart, and then you guys come up with what you're looking for now, and I can add in from Stuart and have those to Kat ahead of time so she can come back. Because when she comes in February, you're going to need to know all the answers.
So I think, to me, this is like twofold, I guess. So you're gonna get some information from Stuart. We're gonna figure out how to do this. Kat's got to get some information. Freddie, you have a grasp on what we're looking for. I would suggest that Kat and Freddie have a conversation before our February meeting and bring us back options on how to do this. To me, we could sit here for the next
Yeah,
2 hours
right.
trying to figure out how to do this, but I think Freddie has done this a long time, and she's crafted the warrant articles. So I think conversations between the two is more beneficial at this point, I think we made all of our points. We'll have Claire make hers as well. I mean, if that's the committee's amenable to that, I think we could just sit here spinning our wheels on this.
agree.
I think we're all kind of going in the same direction. It's just, how do we get there?
Exactly.
Okay.
And conscious, we got other people. so,
Exactly.
yeah.
And we got a lot more going on. So Claire, are you good with Freddie and Kat working together to come back to bring us something for a February meeting? But I will just say,
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say, I think you really should schedule the meeting like in 2 weeks, because there's still a lot of stuff that has to be done.
well,
I mean, the number of questions that you guys have been bouncing back and forth here, it just really is quite a lot.
so I was going to suggest,
So I
Claire.
agree with you, Lisa, in terms of, next steps.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to reach out to Mark Purple tomorrow to find an idea of when our drop dead date is that we need to get this in. It's sometime in February. So my suggestion would be, we should probably try to schedule something sooner rather than later. Ellen, when is vacations for school? Isn't that the middle to end of February?
Yeah, the week of the
Third
16th.
week, thank you. So I know we're kind of going out of sequence here a little bit, but let's just kind of all take a look. Sorry, I just think it makes sense. Again, I don't know what Mark's gonna say. I'm assuming they're gonna want everything to going to council by the third week, I'm guessing, which is the week of the 16th. So we can either meet next week or the week after.
Can I make a
And we have-
suggestion?
I think next week because we don't know how long it will take. And
But are you going to have your information by next week?
Trying to
Okay,
have it tomorrow.
go ahead, Freddie.
I'm sorry to put this out there like this, but until she has her information and you guys have voted on it, I can't complete the warrant article. So you need 2 meetings in before. You have to have the warrant article and vote on it.
You can't, based on the conversations tonight and knowing where it looks like the committee's going and what Kat needs, you can't work toward.
Kat isn't going to have her information for a
She just
couple,
said she would,
not tomorrow, not in time for me, like when?
like,
Well, I've put the feelers out. We're trying to nail it down. So I'm hoping I mean, I could have it by tomorrow, but
I mean, what
I
about,
don't think it's,
why don't we just, okay, let me offer a suggestion then. Why don't we do either the 4th or the 5th, and we'll do a contingency of the 11th or 12th. We can pick a day of each, and if Kat doesn't have her information, then we can put it off to the following week. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. Should we, if it helps Freddie to have the authorization, should we vote on moving forward with a potential application or a potential warrant article or something tonight? So that Freddie
need to
has the
vote.
say-so, or can you just go off?
I would like consensus, but, so I'm going to write a warrant article
Right, you're going to work towards writing the warrant article.
with all the conditions that we've been discussing here.
Yes,
After I talk with Kat and
Yep.
Stuart, what's possible, which way we need to
Yep.
go, that you're in agreement of moving this forward, and there's no additional funds requested at this time. Is that a possibility, Kat,
no additional funds from where we're not.
from CPC?
Beyond the 47,000?
just beyond the 47.
No, we're not.
Okay,
Okay.
doing that.
is everybody good with that?
Yep, then I can work with Kat and
Okay.
do that.
Okay, Claire, shake your head yes. Are you good with that? We can see you on the camera here.
Yeah,
so-
as much as I can, I'm reading from the closed caption because the microphones just are not working.
You
So,
know what? That means we're not being close enough to the microphones.
that's much better.
Okay, we'll make sure. It's
Thank
funny
you.
because the microphones echo in the room, so you try to back away from them, but in order for you to hear, we actually have to echo. So, okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
So
I'm
that
just
seems like a
behind.
path. Let's just take a look, just the 4th or the 5th, which is better for people? That's Wednesday and Thursday. That's next week. Should bring up my calendar.
Either for me.
Okay,
The 5th would be better for me.
okay, the 5th, which is Thursday. Freddie, look at
Okay.
your schedule too.
Fifth would also be better for me.
The 5th is better for you. Okay, let's schedule the 5th at 7 PM. We'll try to get this room again. And then let's just do the following week in case we need it as a contingency, which is Wednesday, the 11th and Thursday, the 12th.
The 11th, please.
Okay. Claire, does the 11th work for you as a contingency? Okay. Kristen, Grant?
Either.
Okay, so the 11th, Freddie, do those dates work for you?
Yep.
7 PM, we'll try for this room. Okay. All right,
Great, thank you very much. And 2 things. One, I wanted to, Freddie, if you want me to participate in any part of your Stewart conversation, if it's helpful, I'm happy to do so. And 2, if at one of these meetings, you can tell me what other additional process needs to happen to close out phase 1, the signage that we need to add and those types of things, just dotting those i's and making sure we're good to go on that.
Have you ever shown the committee the signs that have been installed?
No.
We don't even know the language.
I could provide a present, not a presentation, but a PDF package of what it looks like. So
that'd be great.
I've done walkarounds.
I think before you close out a project, I think the committee's going to want to do
Yeah.
a walk around and also,
Yeah.
see the signage and the language and all of
Sure, I
that.
can put that in PDF. Will be easier than walking around. given the
Perfect.
Snow, but I also have images of them in my ground, so you'll get you'll be able to read the sign.
Somebody from the committee should take a physical look.
Can we see the
Absolutely.
trail under 2 feet of snow?
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, if you have boots, I'll take you out. It's all fun.
Okay,
thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very
I
much.
had snowshoes and was trying to convince my kids to go with me and they're like, Like, we're in high school, we have a snow day, we're not. doing anything with you.
And I will follow up with Mark and I'll have Freddie send out the date that, his kind of date that he wants everything by in February, just so we know what we're working against. Okay, next up, all right, continued application, transfer to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, bless you. So Freddie had crafted a draft warrant article, which we had spoken about. And I'll turn this over to you in 2 seconds, Freddie. For obviously the appropriation to be determined. I'll just let you speak to it. I don't want to.
So the article will be the same as last year's? That's simple.
We
The
like,
to be determined is because the budget numbers aren't ready yet. We have the budget, which I've presented before, and it was based on some unknowns. And I have some hope that the beginning of February, we will have a better idea of state match. And then secondly, so I wrote the budget in such a way that it shouldn't be going down. Right? So that's a baseline minimum I would be comfortable with. The other thing is, what is happening with the town taxes? And if we have a better idea of where those are, the select board meeting to discuss things? I've heard high. Last year, I think we estimated an increase over the prior year of like 4%, and it came in at 7.6%. The reason why that matters is that it changes the dollar amount of our expected revenue. It also changes the dollar amount of the state. Well, no, it doesn't change the state match because that's based on last year's. But between that and the state match, is it significant? Well, it can be enough money to help fund a project. Not substantially, but certainly the set aside for the 10% would change and go up, and that would change the dollar amount that's in the affordable housing. It's not affordable, sorry, community housing reserve fund. And my understanding, if I have it correct, is that the committee has determined they want to the dollar amount that was asked and that the committee was comfortable with was transferring everything in the community housing reserve fund minus 100,000.
Yep.
So, I mean, I could make the dollar amount what we have now, but I thought you might want the extra. I don't know how many thousand it would be. It's not a huge amount, but
okay, we'll have that number by our next meeting.
yeah, I'll have it. I will have that wrapped up. The other thing, I believe the state reimbursement, we're not calling it a state match anymore. I'm trying to get used to that. The preferred language is reimbursement, distribution. It wasn't a reimbursement. The state distribution is, there was a discrepancy in the year before. We took the difference. We did a warrant article to make I shouldn't say took the difference. We made an adjustment which added to the account, and I will run those numbers and you can decide if you want to do that again. And I'll have that for you at next meeting.
Okay.
That's why there's like 2,000 something in the historical account, because we came up with that after the fact, and that will go to pay one of the bonds.
Okay, thank you. All right, so any questions or comments on this draft article? I'm good.
May I say, I think you want to give it to the Affordable Housing Trust before you approve it, so that you want their way in, because there's conditions, not that you get to change, sorry, not that you need to change it because it's your warrant article and they approved it last year, but I think as a courtesy, because there are those conditions that if they have anything to weigh in on, you might want that by the next meeting. Does that make sense?
That was a given. Yep,
Okay.
yep. I figured Ellen would take it back to them once she saw it. So, Kristen,
Yeah, I'll just start by saying, first of all, I'm sorry for the confusion the last meeting. You guys all know I was unexpectedly in a hospital like room, and when we were voting, I thought we were just saying, does this article meet CPC guidelines or what have you, not necessarily taking a position. So I'm sorry for that confusion. Because I understand like legally, et cetera, it does meet CPC guidelines. I'll just state once again, and I'll keep it short because again, I keep meaning to be more eloquent, but I think only a handful of people will see this. So more importantly, again, I'll just repeat what I said last time. It's a discussion I'd like to see happen publicly before town meeting.
Kristen, just 1 second.
Yeah.
Claire, can you hear Kristen?
I'm sorry, I'm just reading the closed
Okay,
caption.
no,
I
we're
can't-
gonna bring the microphones up. All of us
Okay,
are. Sorry.
sorry.
Kristen, I just want to make sure.
Thank you,
Yeah, no,
everybody.
I'm used to being like very loud
too.
too. Now I'm gonna blow people's ears out. So again, nothing new for this committee, but I'll state it into record again. It's just a discussion I'd like to see happen publicly, more publicly before town meeting. I'll raise my concerns more in detail before then and there, but much prefer to discuss it prior to the town meeting floor, obviously, to avoid confusion and commotion the day of the meeting. Last year, we sat in the public safety building, probably right around the same time, figuring out how to move forward. But with the new Affordable Housing Committee, or maybe it hadn't been formally voted into existence, had it been?
It just was.
Had just been voted into existence, and CPC, because there was concern about funds that hadn't been used in the CPA affordable housing bucket for quite some time. And, you know, that's water under the bridge as to why or why not. So at the time, we agreed to a fairly broad set of considerations on how that money could be applied. And that was a difference in how CPC projects or CPA funding projects usually come forward, where there's a very specific project with detail that the town can then vote on how they want their tax funds to be used. So, you know, we agreed to the broad set of considerations with some, I'd say, hesitation, but even town council was involved and said, you know what, like, see how the first year goes, you can reevaluate. So there was a certain amount of funds appropriated directly from CPA funding into affordable housing trust fund, with these kind of broad set of considerations. I want to be very, very clear. I know we all are lockstep, like all of us, about the need to provide more affordable housing and wanting to start applying those funds because we haven't been doing so. The benefit to that, though, is now we've built up, you know, a pretty decent bucket of funds to use. And I'm concerned that we've now kind of quickly delegated the authority to spend that money to a small group of people, a very dedicated, great, educated group of people, but a small group of people nonetheless, without a solid plan on how Southborough as a town envisions our future for affordable housing. What does that look like? Is it buying a single home? Is it buying, you know, is it developing more housing for 55 plus? Where is that? You know, like, and I just don't think that we've had those conversations in public. I know your meetings are public, but most people don't know what's happening in those meetings when they are. They're not going out to the town virtual meetings and then navigating to the agendas and finding it. You know, we all know that. We need to have some public hearings, I think. You mentioned something in your last meeting about a potential grant, where whomever was offering it would offer professional assistance in developing that type of plan versus in your own committee's words, select members just kind of going around town and looking at properties, which is kind of how it's felt to date. And not because there's bad intentions there. They're wonderful intentions, but there's probably a more organized way to go about it. Sounds like maybe the grant didn't come through, if I understood.
Yep.
That's incredibly disappointing because I'm like, that sounds amazing. But if there's some other avenue to pursue to get a more formal plan, I've mentioned in the past that we'd like to see how much has the committee considered current population density, people, houses, multifamily houses. You know, where does open land exist? How is that proportionate across the town? And, where is it minimal or becoming even less because of new developments? And how does new, recent, or planned development, notably MBTA communities, impact the areas from a traffic perspective, road width, if we're talking about Atwood Street, it's a very narrow road, and degradation of forest land where animals live, like we do have those, and but there's less and less space for them to actually live. So the last thing I'll say is the tipping point for me, you all know, was the Atwood Street property, where it was a focus of our discussions last year, and how things had been handled to date. And the fact that it was next to the water tower property, then subsequently we found out that the land, has an issue that now needs to be remediated with the lead paint. And it was disappointing, I guess, to hear that this year the committee considered far enough to draft a warrant article, although it didn't go forward, to use some of that funding to actually mitigate the cleanup on that land. Because for whatever reason, that parcel is such a focus, even though it was kind of it was a point of contention last year and how it was being approached, and yet it seems like a focus of the committee. And for that reason, I just think we need to take a step back and just make sure that the town has the chance. I mean, again, I don't want this to look like everybody has the right intentions, but I just think the town needs the opportunity to say, hey, in general, this is the direction we'd like to see affordable housing go, to make sure that we don't miss any big opportunities to do something bigger with our money versus investing maybe in a single home, that perhaps it could be demolished and you could put in some affordable housing for seniors, but does that even make sense in that particular lot? I just think we need to take a pause and just give the town a chance to give feedback. And that was very long-winded, so I apologize to everyone, especially those in the audience.
All right, thank you. Ellen?
Sure. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate the thought you bring to this, your just general passion and advocacy for people across the town. And I will say, one piece where we, as the trust, and I don't know if Doug is on or here, if I'm
Not sure.
speaking for the trust.
I don't see him.
Where we have tried to start identifying some of those strategies and some of what you've talked about in terms of where's the density, where's the open land, where are the people, is through the housing production plan. And that was a really big focus of kind of our first year as the new committee. And by all of our descriptions was a process that was a lot faster than we would have liked. It was coming up against a state deadline that it should have been started in the previous iteration of the committee, and we just didn't have as much time for the type of community engagement that we really wanted and believe is important. And so the technical assistance that we applied to was Intensive Affordable Housing Trust, TA. And so we were not one of the communities selected, but there are a lot of other opportunities for that type of TA, just not through that specific program. And so I think that is, and when we haven't met since we got word that we didn't get that, but that is certainly something that we will continue to pursue, because we do have expertise in different areas, and that is one where we know we need outside support. And so I think I can only speak for myself as one member of that committee, but fully believe that we need the type of community engagement that you're talking about, and would love to have that sort of community vision of what we want, how we want to move affordable housing forward. So I appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Appreciate yours.
Thank you, Ellen. Grant?
Yeah, I don't think I really have anything much to add. Last year I had concerns in the process, but I think they were addressed in the final warrant article and that kind of meeting where we hashed everything out. So I ended up voting for it. I think this is kind of just a routine follow-up to that. So I'm in favor of proceeding with it.
Thank you. Claire? Any thoughts on the draft warrant?
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, is Kevin on, Grant? If not, I have his note.
He is
so-
not. And
He's not. I'll
I,
let you speak to it as well, or?
yeah, why don't you start and I can try to
Okay.
fill in anything.
So I know the committee's probably aware, there was a note in the Dropbox that we received from the chair of the Historical Commission that the information, they tried very hard to get the information that we were looking for to get a final number. And unfortunately, different factors at play. He thinks out of respect for our time, our committee's timeline, he's asking that we put it on hold for now, looking towards a fall town meeting, but he wants us to, he's hoping that we'll remain amenable to that possibility. I certainly am. A ton of work has gone into this. This is a project I completely support. I think it's really great, and it's unfortunate we couldn't pull it together. But I thank Kevin and the Historical Commission for, continuing. So before we go down the line and just make sure that everybody's fine with leaving this application open, I'll go to Grant, who is the vice chair of the Historical Commission.
Yeah, not really much to add. The only thing I'll note is that the main holdup for those who haven't been following it, but I guess people watching at home, was the lack of a cost estimate and trying to get that from this report. My understanding is that we are still trying to go forward with that report. So in preparation for the fall town meeting, scheduling issues, we started it late. I think the guy was on vacation. I do think it shouldn't take that long. I don't have an estimate of when it will happen, but I think it should be doable before the next town meeting, and we should have a better cost estimate. We know that it will be higher than the application, was it 2 years ago now, with the asphalt roof and the non-historically correct stuff. So we know it will be significantly higher than that, but that would be useful for also having a maintenance plan going forward and everything like that.
Awesome. Thank you, Grant. Kristen, anything?
No,
Okay. You're amenable to leaving the
Absolutely.
application open?
I
Okay,
agree with
Ellen?
everything you said.
Okay,
Yep, agree, fine with leaving this open. Yeah, hopefully can move it forward for the fall.
okay. Grant, I hope you're amenable to leaving this open.
I am amenable, as I did revise the application.
Thank you. Claire, are you amenable as well to leaving the application for the historical open and?
Yeah,
revising it?
absolutely. I guess the only thing I would comment on is this the only guy that does this? I mean, people build a house quicker than this guy has been able to
It is
provide
kind
the
of a niche
information.
I will note that.
I mean, not to sound, little,
I will note that at least Historical thinks we're getting a pretty good deal with this guy, because he wanted I mean, the whole thing was getting the $5,000. And if you think about the iron rail fence, I think the VHB design costs for that have gone above, I could be wrong, but I think they're above 10,000 now just for the fence. So for the, for this 5,000 for a building seems pretty reasonable.
Awesome. Thank you. Freddie, do you want to add anything?
So you don't know what the project's going to cost at this time. So how, if you're moving forward to the fall town meeting and we have a finite amount of funds and we have projects in front of us that might use up those funds, how much should we be setting aside for that project?
I believe I mentioned a couple months ago that we had heard around 100,000-ish, but that's just a very ballpark number. So that's better than the 25 or 15,000 that was the original request, but it could be higher than that. It could be lower than that. I'm not sure.
So right now for
And we
fall-
don't have the actual cost
Right.
estimate from the guy. So that was just the rough estimate of
Okay.
using the historically correct.
So just in my head, right now, you're putting aside $500,000 for fall town meeting that you're not going to use for the projects in front of you for this town meeting.
100.
Well,
500.
400 for the golf if we move forward with the golf.
Oh, if we move
There's
forward,
an
okay.
additional 4.
Neither are definite. You haven't voted on them. You don't have the applications. But if you want to be able to fund those, have the potential, you need to be aware of setting aside $500,000 of the currently available funding. Although, when we get to the budget, there'll be a couple of other maybes out there. So,
Awesome. Thank you. Grant, we'll let Kevin know I don't know when your next meeting is, but let them know, absolutely. Or if you prefer, I can send a letter.
I don't think a
You're
letter.
the representative.
I can let them know. Yeah.
That's perfect. All right, great. Thank you. Next up, Fayetteville Park improvements. So we're going to bring Travis over. And since our last meeting in the Dropbox, you'll notice, and Travis can speak to this as well. I just want to talk about the new documents that are in the Dropbox. There's a new estimate. There's a new conceptual plan. Those were shared with the neighbors. Lori Borden is here. Thank you, Lori, for coming. There was also a email exchange from yesterday. Patty Fiore had sent a note in and Travis had responded to her. Those are in the Dropbox as well. So with that, those being said, is Travis moved over?
I believe I promoted him to a panelist.
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, Travis. Are you there?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can. Thank you for hanging around. We appreciate it.
No worries at all. I'm sorry. I tried to make it in person, but I had some scheduling things that I just couldn't line up. So I apologize. I couldn't be there in person.
It's 9 o'clock. We're very glad you're not.
Exactly. And we can see you. We're actually sitting here at the table looking across the room. There's a TV, so we can actually see you. So it's like you're sitting here almost.
There you go. Yeah. We just put 3 kids to bed. So we're already winning the night.
All right. I will turn it over to you. You can go through the updates that, you have sent in, any new information you'd like to share as well.
Yeah, well, we've definitely been pretty busy in regards to this project and a lot of good updates. Since our last meeting, we had some good conversations with some of the residents, Lori included. Patty sent that email that you all see that Lisa put in the Dropbox, which is a great feedback. We circled back with the architects to shrink the square footage of the splash pad from 8,000 to 2,000. To maximize the green space, because we've heard from residents that that's what they like at that park, which is totally understandable. It's a beautiful amenity, beautiful park, and green space is a priority that everyone's expressed that they'd like more of. So we've shrunk the footage of the spray park down, and the rendering that you do see in front of you is just a 2D rendering. The spray park can kind of be located anywhere. I know it's in the middle of the rendering, but it can be in a corner to maximize more green space. But that's just kind of to give you a sense of where we're at. I'm very happy to report, and I'm sorry to bounce around a little bit, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Go. We're going to put the rendering up in the background, Travis, just so you know. So as you're talking, that will be in the
Yep. So a lot
background.
of the key things that were included, that the residents weighed in on: the dog park, the splash pad, the walking trail, were all included. We kept all those amenities. We just consolidated one down to maximize more green space. We have applied for the grant, the Land, Water, and Conservation Fund grant. That application went in. I'm very happy to report that. We've got a few other things we're working on that are small for that that grant application, but the application's in. We're actually going to do a site walk with the Land, Water, and Conservation Fund tomorrow on the site. So it'll be cold, and I'm hoping they can get a good picture of the 2 feet of snow that it's under, but we're going to do a site walk of that. Yep, there it is.
Thank you, Grant.
I've also had some good conversations with the police chief and the DPW based off of last meeting. It was a very good idea to bring up to have some conversation with the police chief to see if he had any ideas on how we can possibly increase parking. He had the really good idea of putting parking spaces at an angle to pull in there. He seems to think that you can maybe get 2 or 3 additional spots if you were just doing regular parallel parking. So that's something we're going to explore as well. He actually brought up putting a blinking light where that crosswalk is to make it a little safer for folks that park at 42 or 44 Central Street for those deeded spots we have. And Kristen actually early in the week brought up the good point of maybe engaging with the Fayetteville Athletic Association, which is an establishment behind the Historical Society, where they operate mainly in the evening, that maybe we could partner with them to add a few spots during the day and add some additional parking there. Some of the residents actually brought up maybe parking down by the shed and consolidating the dog park down. These are all things that we're going to explore after hearing from residents and even in the survey we did. Parking is definitely an amenity and a feature to the park that everyone seems to be concerned with, that we really want to be sensitive to and explore all options if we can. We do plan on having at least 2 more public engagement sessions. We have a Recreation Commission meeting next week, and we are hoping to have one in February and maybe another one in March or April. We're going to put that information out. So the public engagement is going to be ongoing. It's not just going to stop. So those are some of the updates we had. I know it's a lot. I'm sorry to kind of bounce around all over the place, but we've been busy, and that's some of the amenity updates and rendering updates, and the cost breakdown. I was hoping the cost would come down a little bit more with the shrinking of the splash pad, but it didn't come down too much more. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now since our last meeting. Was it 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago?
The
Sorry.
only thing I want to add is, and Travis mentioned this, but again, we haven't had the public sessions yet because we want to bring the architect into that, but they need to know some idea if this is actually something that might be viable before we keep getting service from them. But again, if this continues to move forward, that would be the immediate next step would be those sessions in February and then play back to whatever feedback's received.
Yep. And that's kind of it. And that's we're hoping to continue to engage with the public, the residents, to figure out as the project moves forward, any amenities they'd like to see included in this, or maybe location changes. But we're excited about the project, and we've been working hard on it since we last met.
Great, thank you. Just one quick question. You mentioned a couple public forums. When are you thinking of doing those? Again, I'm looking at a timeline of when we need to get draft articles. I know they can be amended and changed on town meeting floor. I get that.
Mhm.
So when would you be looking? Both in February, and are you taking into account school vacation?
Sorry, Kristen, you go ahead.
Well, we have the meeting next week. So
Okay.
that's what, again,
Okay.
if tonight is kind of always a series of steps, if tonight went well, meaning
Okay.
if it still has life and we're moving forward, then next week we discuss when that first design session is. It has to be in February. Obviously, February vacation is something we're aware of in other meetings, but that gives time for us to play back,
Okay.
before town meeting, whatever feedback we get into a proposed plan. I guess I will just say this, Travis and I didn't plan this, so Travis, sorry. if I shouldn't.
Okay.
But we know, and I'm looking at Lori just because she's the only one in the room, but we obviously know there's a lot of feedback and concerns. We get that as a recreation commission, and I know you've heard it ad nauseum. We have a certain list of things people want in the master plan. A water feature, a dog park. We've exhausted. And I'm saying this more for the benefit of other people, all other areas in town that we could do this. Again, I'll put developers, would be great if we get some land. But now in our mind, it's we as a recreation commission and as the director can put it forward. Town, you've asked for this. This to us is the most viable option, and how we can do this with the land that we have, with the restrictions that we have, et cetera. And then it's really, and these are, the concerns, the considerations, and it's really up to the town. It's much like the CPC in that way, right? We have to advise and we have to understand what's in the scope, but at the end of the day, these decisions and how this money's spent is up to the town. And I would say that kind of extends to the park as well. We're saying, hey, we heard you. This is the best we can do right now. And then the town, taking into consideration the neighbors' feedback, need to react.
Thank you, Kristen. That's a good point. And then I mentioned the grant earlier too. So we are working to construct an article as part of the grant. We need to have an article in town meeting. And even if we were selected for the grant and receive a grant, we would not hear back from the federal government till the fall. And we wouldn't be able to move on the project till the fall anyway. So I think that in addition to town meeting, if we get an affirmative vote through the CPC, I would imagine there'd be at least maybe 1 or 2 other community engagement sessions, maybe in the summer or early fall, in addition to that. So like Kristen said, it's once you kind of reach one approval process or step, it's to the next one as we work through this.
Great, thank you. I do have a couple questions. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go through everybody, and I'm gonna come back to Freddie, and I want to ask her if she can talk about if we move this forward, if this, the bonding capacity, and I want her to touch base with that for all of us as well. Let's see, I'm just looking. So, I thought about as well, how might this affect future projects? But then I also thought again, how many years now have we put out feelers to everybody, begging? And I mean, Beth Mello did a thing on my Southborough about it, even trying to put together a 5 or 10 year plan of 25 years. Okay, Freddie just said, for 25 years, we've been asking. And, we continue to get nothing until, last minute things come forward. So I'm going to have Freddie talk about that at the end piece. So I will just add that I appreciate that you clearly listened to the feedback on the size of that, on the splash pad, the green space, I think that's great that there's green space added back. But I'll just leave it at that for now. And we'll go down. So Kristen, I don't know, do you have any questions, Kristen, for recreation?
No, I think I've talked way too much, so I'm gonna hand it off to Ellen.
All right. It is the one that you just got. Hold on. Let me just go to my email too and make sure.
It's the new.
It's the new one. That's the,
It's a new one.
this is the only one I have, Lori, and I thought I sent it to you. Let me just try to get into my computer. Nope. Hold on one second. Let me just pull up the email I sent you real quick. And just to make sure.
This was in the Dropbox. This
Yep.
was in the Dropbox.
Yep, this is the one in the Dropbox. I just want to make sure because I forwarded. Oops. Hold on one second, Lori Borden, Fayetteville Park. Oh, that's not Lori Borden. Who's that person? I have no idea. That was strange. Hold on 2 seconds, Lori. I just want to make sure that I sent you, and I thought I did. The 2D rendering. So this is, I'm looking at the email. I sent it to you. Travis sent it to me, and I sent it to you on the 21st, I believe. Hold on. Give you a heads. Nope, that was canceled. Stand by. Okay, well then I won't look any further then. Okay, great. So that being said, Ellen?
Thank you.
Ellen, you
Yes.
have the floor.
Sorry, so granted, I was just discussing because we had a similar thought. Just wanted to get a little more clarity on the budget. And I was trying to look back to the previous one that we had and just compare. Yeah, just to make sure adding everything up correctly.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
Yeah, so question for me is I was comparing, and actually I can try to pull it up on the screen share, but so it looked to me like under the construction section of the budget, actually, yeah, let me share that on the screen if you give me a second. Give me one sec. It looked to me like the costs went down, but when I compared it to the prior estimate, the total cost went up. And it looked to me that sorry, give me 1 second here. It looked to me that the prior estimate was off. Like when I added up the numbers, it was off by 200,000 or so. So when I added it up on my end, it should have been 1.262,700,000 with all the numbers on the sheet there, but that the opinion of total project cost was 200,000 less than that. So I'm not sure if that was an error or not, but and then so when I was comparing the Fayetteville construction section, items 1 through 7, some of those numbers were lower than the other one, which should result in a lower budget. But I think that's why it looks like the budget is going up, because the previous version was erroneous, unless I was reading it incorrectly. Let me try to share both on the screen.
I'm going to pull it up too.
jump a little.
Can you see two windows?
Oh, wow, you were good.
Uh, So again, I was just like plugging this into a calculator, so I don't know if this was
Is there
correct.
contingency on the right?
I know they lowered the contingency, but I don't know how, from 20 to 15%, I think, but or 15 to 20.
Yeah,
I think the line items are the same.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what I caught was that essentially the updated one is on the left.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, so the splash pad went down, the picnic area went up slightly, but still less than the amount that the splash pad went down. And then contractor costs, general conditions went down and contingency went down. So I was expecting the entire thing to go down, but then of course it went up. And I think it's because when I added these numbers up, which I'm ashamed that I didn't do like 3 months ago, but it's 200,000 less than is written there,
Okay.
I believe.
I can definitely bring that to Activitas. I just looked at the construction totals and went with that. I should have it went the extra step and added them all up like you had done.
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking about it until I saw that the splash pad went down so much and that the total cost went up, and I was wondering why that was. So again, I was just doing this back the napkin right now, but that's what I noticed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry to steal your thunder, Ellen. You can
No, you
take
explained
it
better
back.
than I did.
Okay.
Grant, I can send you the spreadsheet that I did where I compared both of them together on one page. If you want to go through that, I thought the numbers, came out, the math came out okay.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I'm not getting it either. I just did it. I just added the, from the 1072. When I added that together, and I'm just gonna make sure I didn't do anything wrong. I added the 116, the 437, the 109, 200, the 83.5, the 59.9, the 145.4, the 195.100. So it should have came out to 952, and I come out with 11.4. Let's see. 1,142,700.
Okay, I got,
We're all getting different things. I went on Excel.
Again,
Hopefully I'm not.
I didn't do it in Excel. So again, I was just doing it in the meeting here. So sorry about that, but.
No, you're
If
good.
it-
You're good. It's still different. It's still
If-
different.
If it'll help, I can call Activitas tomorrow morning and have them validate all of this information and send the committee a 100% accurate estimate instead of us going back and forth, because it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, it's 192.5.
Can you also,
Close.
Okay.
Right at the 200,000, yeah.
can you also check out the contingency?
100%. Yep.
Because it says 20%, but it doesn't add up to 20 or 15, so.
No, and it still says 20%, and it went down from 190 to 176.
Right, but what's that 20% of? 15% of?
Correct. Yeah, that's a good point.
It doesn't, the math doesn't work.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry for the administrative.
No, I just thought I'd point out because
Estimates.
I caught it. It wasn't, I wasn't meaning to point fingers or anything like that.
No, it's totally good thing to bring up.
Sorry, you can go back to.
No. So, yeah, it was just that question that I didn't dig as deeply as granted, but just noticing that the budget had gone up despite the splash pad size going down. So thank you for looking into that. Yeah, I appreciate the email correspondence that was shared in the Dropbox as well. So thank you for continuing to engage with the neighbors. Yeah, I think sort of like you were saying, right, at some point, we can bring this, if we choose to, the community to make that decision. I appreciate, that Recreation has been looking into how to meet, these goals that are laid out in the master plan and find the appropriate spots for them. And so, yeah, would encourage that all the continued engagement that you've described and have done so far continues to happen. And I think, Lisa, I think you had mentioned that Freddie would discuss at the end kind of how this could be funded, because I think that's, know the value of holding on to money for some sort of potential future, something that is likely not to materialize, but just understanding what the impact is
Yep.
exactly. So that's it.
Thank you, Grant.
Yeah, I also just want to echo that I appreciate the design changes, especially the reduction of permeable surfaces and adding green space. I think that that's great. And yeah, for me, it's just really the question about the budget, both the discrepancy in the numbers, but whether or not, yeah, essentially, I think my decision will come down to mainly cost at this point. It had been more design and cost and the need of the large splash pad, that kind of thing. I think for me anyway, I'm satisfied with the plan as I see it. Just on the plan, actually, I have a couple quick questions. The squares with the X's through them, could you describe what those are? I think we might have mentioned that previously.
Right now, they're going to be picnic areas. But again, like I said earlier, it's just a 2D rendering to get some perspective with folks. So ideally, with a splash pad, you'd like to have a little bit of seating, whether it's picnic tables or benches. I think one of the things that we walked away from by doing the survey was folks would like more shaded space there, whether it's trees, picnic tables with shade structures over them. I think that was one thing that we took away with the survey that folks wanted more of there.
Okay, no, it's helpful. That makes sense. I wasn't sure if it was like gazebo or larger structure or something. So
yeah, and we want to be sensitive to the landscape too. We like to put trees in, but I don't want to create more that's going to block the really nice view of the reservoir that's there too.
Okay, great, thanks. So yeah, for me, I think I guess my final decision will come down to cost and availability in the budget and stuff like that. But I appreciate everything you've done on this, Travis.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Claire.
I have a question about the survey. And I thank you. You guys have done a lot of work on it, and it's certainly appreciated. The survey, obviously people said that they would like this, they would like that, would all like a lot of stuff. What was the distribution on the survey? I think it was kind of like just you had to log on, or you had to go to the site and fill it out.
Yeah, we had.
Okay, so how many responses did you actually get? For some reason, I'm thinking like 100.
No, we actually had a 350.
Okay.
And then we did canvass the neighborhood, the abutters with a letter with the survey link. And I think out of that 350, there was, and I'm just guessing, it was I think 10 or 15% were we listed them as within walking distance of the park. So I think it was 60 or 70 that filled it in that marked or checked off that they live within walking distance of the Fay Memorial Park.
Gotcha. Okay, so I think that at town meeting, because I started drafting up a list of questions that people are going to ask at town meeting, I think you're going to have a hard sell on the splash pad. We live in a very affluent town. I think a lot of people have access to pools either in their backyard or a neighbor. My concern is that the splash pad is going to bring in a lot of people from out of town. The second thing is about the dog park. Another really nice idea. I think that's going to be a tough sell. And there's a couple reasons why. One of the questions that was identified was about liability with actually both of these. And I don't know if you've had a chance to talk with town council. I know that the response came back that towns are essentially, I don't want to say exempt, but their liability is different than homeowners have. My question is is it going, in order to get that liability protection, is it going to increase our liability payments?
It's a great question. So we did circle back with town council because I think that was brought up. I think one of the initial meetings we had was because that's where your mind goes now. From a legal perspective, and you put that hat on, we did check with town council, and they did say both splash pads and dog parks were covered under the recreation umbrella, would be considered passive recreation, would be considered under the liability insurance for the town. Because they're considered recreational.
Yeah,
amenities.
and I did read that because there was some document amongst all of them where I did read all of your responses. Thank you very much. But
No.
I think that town council provided half of an answer. Yeah, towns might have a different liability structure or whatever. But my question is what the cost is going to be, if there is a cost associated with that.
I'm happy to check with them to see if there'd be any additional costs for.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure it'd be town council that could answer that. It would really be more like whoever the town does insurance with, I think. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
just a question that I think is going. These are all questions so that you don't get blindsided at town meeting. I will be very honest with you. As a taxpayer, I don't approve of either one. But that's just, I'm just speaking as myself. And right now, there is not a huge appetite for a lot of nice to have type of things. The other question is maintenance. How is this going to require additional people in some department, whether it's in recreation or in DPW? Maintenance has to be considered.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So the splash pad is a nice thing because, like I said, like Kristen said, we did go through an open space and recreation plan, and an aquatics amenity was something that was brought up numerous times. I think it was 40 different times. The splash pad is nice because there's less of a liability, and you need no lifeguards, obviously. So there's no cost there. There's less chemicals. You're not operating a pool. There's less liability. And it's a water element the town can use. But as far as maintenance goes, that's one good thing. That's a splash pad too. There's less maintenance. There would be a utility cost for the recycled water, and there would be a winterization cost there. That is something that the recreation department is going to absorb in the revolving fund because we plan on doing recreational programs there, like pre-K programming, maybe dog obedience. We plan on doing recreational programs there that are going to help support the splash pad. So there would be no tax increase in our budget or anything like that to make this happen. And the splash pad, we have talked to, or sorry, the dog park, we've had conversations with DPW to see if we can address the wood chips. I think it was, and I'm the numbers off the top of my head. I think it was like every year to recycle some of the wood chips, refurb them. That's something we are going to work with DPW on. But we don't plan on increasing our budget line. We don't plan on adding any staff. All the maintenance and annual upkeep will be coming from the Recreation Department revolving fund. So there would be no additional operating expense increase for us.
Who does the maintenance, like the cleanup now when people have an event at the area that's allocated now? There's like a little pavilion there or something.
Yeah, we permit birthday parties. We DPW pays for the porta potty, and we have rubbish that DPW picks up as well. So that's something we've had conversations with DPW on, and they're fully aware of the project. So we want to make sure we have.
Is there a cost associated with using that? In other words, if I was to throw a party with 15, 20 kids, is there a cost to me?
No, residence is free. 2 hours. This is the shameless plug for birthday parties at Fay Memorial Park for the Recreation Department. It is free for residents. It's a 2-hour block. You can permit it. I think Recreation Department had, and again, I'm just ballparking this because I don't know the number. But it was 50 birthday parties there last year. In 2025, we permitted 50 birthday parties. I think it's a $25 or $30 fee, and for non-residents, it's minimal.
It sure is. If
Yes.
that's all you're charging.
It's not much, but the residents get it for
Yeah.
free. And it might be $50. I don't have the permit in front of me, but
Yeah.
we're hoping to use the space for programming. And I mean, it's good feedback. I know there are going to be amenities that people are going to be a fan of, and there's going to be amenities that people aren't a fan of. And the good thing throughout this is that the survey we were able to do, we were able to get some programming information and things that people would like to see. So it was a nice exercise to get people's feedback through this whole process.
All right. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Claire. So Freddie, I'm going to turn to you, and then we'll open it up if there's any other questions. Can you just touch base on if we, and we're just going to, let's do the ballpark number. Let's just use the revised. What is it? The reduced is what, 1179? Okay, let's use that number and kind of give us some feedback on if and how we could possibly fund this. Now, keeping in mind that a grant has been applied for as well, that could be written into a warrant article if we move forward. So I turn it over to you.
Okay. First question I have, which isn't about the budget, but if I may.
Yeah.
Travis, I think you said you were going to have neighborhood outreach through the summer.
Correct. I think part of the grant that we apply, and again, this is pending the grant and us getting the grant. Like I said, we're not going to hear back from the federal government till the fall, so we can't do any construction until the fall at the earliest. So I think engaging the neighbors or residents as a whole might be a good exercise in the summer at least once. I don't know if that's okay or not.
Sure, it's great. The more neighborhood involvement, the better. Public engagement. My question is that, as we were just talking with Trails, how could that switch the project scope, and it will impact how I write the warrant article? So just thinking about that and having some answers before next week.
Yeah.
Because right now we have a dog park. I mean, there's ways of doing this if I know ahead of time.
Mhm.
I'm talking about a dog park, a
Walking trail and the
walking trail and the
Yep.
splash pad. Usually we say in conformance with plans as presented to the committee in their application. So if some of that's changing, we can get around that. But if you're eliminating something after the fact.
Travis, I'm going to suggest if it's okay with you, defer this to the recreation meeting next week when the committee can discuss it. Because I think there's a difference between, we've already said, like, we're going to fund design, right, out of recreation revolving. So we're not asking the town to put up any money, but if we have the confidence that this looks like it will go to town meeting, then it makes sense for us to start investing that money with the neighbors, bringing in the architect and firming up things before town meeting. I would hesitate, and again, I don't want to speak for the committee, this is why I would commission, so I would like to wait till next week to say, at the point at which town meeting votes on something, that we're going to make huge material differences. I think we'd still proceed with design as we're getting ready for fall, if it passed, as we're getting ready for construction. But I don't think we should start trying to get ahead of ourselves and plan for material huge changes coming out of town meeting, right? Like, I think our hope would be to have enough design sessions before town meeting to go into something that, if we move forward, people have provided input on. I think it gets really messy and complicated if we try to leave this window open of like, oh, we might change the scope this summer. That's my initial reaction, but I think, in fairness, the commission and Travis, we need to have a discussion about that.
If the CPC would give me authority to discuss with Kristen and the recreation and Travis on anything that comes out of that would help me craft a warrant article for your next meeting based on your discussion tonight. You haven't decided that you're going forward, but
Right.
if you are, that would give me some better guidance to help craft that.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, and I'll just add, and again, Travis, just for you to think about and for us to position on the agenda for the commission is like, if we got to the point where we went into town meeting and it voted through a design and that's what was voted through, and then something changed that radically in the summer, I'd be like, well, wait a second. We got to go back to town meeting. In that case, I wouldn't even be comfortable, quite frankly. Personally, that's my initial reaction, but we need to defer to the commission meetings next week.
So when is the commission meeting next week?
Thursday, the 5th.
That's when we're meeting. Are you meeting before us?
Travis, I'm not doing really good, am I, with
No,
we just
we
decided that
struck-
tonight.
Can I say
We
I
something?
struck
forgot
out.
that okay, in fairness, we just rescheduled our commission meeting for tonight to next week, but then tonight we just booked that slot, Travis.
Yes.
Maybe we
May
can
I
do,
ask?
maybe we can do Tuesday.
You,
Yeah,
you had a tentative one the week after.
The 11th.
Will we, yeah, we.
yeah,
moved.
we were originally supposed to meet tonight.
No,
But
We can certainly push it to the 11th, but then again, if we need another meeting, I guess we can, I guess we could just do the 11th.
If you do the 11th, you're asking a lot for me to have some information from Recreation right before.
No, we would meet next Thursday.
Right, but we're supposed to meet next Thursday too. So what Freddie's saying is,
Even if you met on Wednesday,
Gotcha.
that doesn't give me a lot of time.
so if we meet the 11th though, is there enough time, Freddie, to finalize everything? If Mark Purple tells me we need it the following week?
So
And again, we haven't taken any positions. So
there's a
hypothetically-
deadline and then there's a deadline.
Right. Well, I'll find
Read
out.
between the lines.
All right, so, all right, CPC members, let's just go with the 11th. How's that? Everybody good with that? We'll leave the 5th
Thank
off.
you.
All right, and that'll
You may-
give Freddie extra
You may
time
need
with
another meeting, but
Pat, but
we
we
may
can't do it the
not.
following week because that's vacation week.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, I could do it, but.
I could do it
I know
too, but
other people don't
yeah,
like
I'm
to.
sure most people are going away.
I'll be here.
You'll be here? Oh, okay, okay. Kristen, are you gonna be?
actually probably will be here.
Okay, so if we have to, we can do it. I'm here too, unfortunately. So, okay, if we had to, we had to. So,
Okay, so
okay,
now,
now we're the 11th.
now with the money.
Now with the money. Oh, my God.
Okay. So here's what we have. Oh, dear. You have potentially bonding capacity of 1 million, which means based on funds available after paying off the other bonds and what we expect to be in the anticipated surcharge after taking away the funds for the 10% reserves. You have a set dollar amount. The town treasurer said you could potentially fund a $1 million bond. I will need to get back to him to make sure about that. Now we're at 179,400 over a million. Is that included in, will the bond stretch to cover that? I mean, will the capacity stretch to cover that? I don't know. What we did for the townhouse, we put we bonded to our top capacity, and then it wasn't enough, so there was another 200,000 out of the general unreserved fund.
How much is in the general and reserved now? Can I ask?
Yeah.
Approximately. Again, these aren't concrete numbers. I'm just trying to think. We've already talked about potentially 500,000.
Oh, sorry. Prepared, but I'm not.
Okay, take your time.
Give me a minute. So it's not.
Sorry.
Of course, this isn't going to work right now when you need it. Okay. So it's not what's in one account, it's what they're all add up to. If that makes sense, because you have a potential You have the fund balance, you had some funds from the last year's budgeted reserve, and you also have anticipated funds after we do the set aside and bond payments. So all of those three added together come to $974,354.
Now, is that outside of the buckets or does that
Outside.
include? That's outside. Okay. Okay.
Buckets have been set aside.
Okay.
You have, and that's another discussion.
Right. Yep. Yep.
But so for the 974,354,
You could take,
Right.
you could take the 5 out of that,
minus the 500, you have
474, 354, and then the difference from, what is it, a million?
179, did I say?
Yep, that's what I thought you said.
You're 179,4.
Okay.
So roughly 300K left, right?
Yeah, roughly, just under 3.
So one thing I've always said,
Now can I just ask a question on that? So that 9 is, so that doesn't include fiscal year 27. Of course it does. So it does. So it includes the monies coming in next year will bring us to the 974. Okay, I just want to be clear.
so for budgeting,
Okay, no, it's fine.
but just that you raised it so everyone understands. When we set the budget that's voted on at town meeting, we budget for the anticipated surcharge revenue in the next fiscal year.
Okay.
And that's why some of these things I want to have better numbers because it's a best, I don't want to say best guess, we do really well, but it's our best information at the time. So what happens is, one thing we've always said when we've come in close to the having no funds left after you do a budgeting. So you know, the first 11 years, we only had the state match for funding because all of our surcharge was spent on the bond for Chestnut Hill Farm.
Yep.
So it's not like you haven't been there, although there was more money back then because the state distribution was at a higher rate, but still. And a lot was still done during those years. So that's something you want to have funds available for the future. So what you're looking at, if you, I don't want to say wipe out, but if you allocate most of the funds, is what the future surcharges and state match are going to be.
Mhm.
And the state, I'm trying not to call it state match, the state distribution is not you can't bond against it, and it's not as sure, you don't know how much it's going to be. So that's why I ran that bonding schedule, so you could see what the expectation was. And that was at a low 3%. It started with the exact dollar amount of the recent surcharges, and then you know that taxes historically always go up, so historically they had been at 3%. We haven't adjusted them for these recent high years. So the funding scenario to consider is that if you bond, 1 million is available and you bond that based on the existing bonds whose payments go down every year, and the surcharge goes up every year because taxes go up, you have that delta. And then if you go down, I estimate that in 5 years, it would take 5 years to have enough there to bond another $1 million. And that's dependent on what the interest rates and, that's on the treasurer, what our bond rating is and things like that. But that would give us roughly today at bonding capacity of 92,000, we can take out $1 million bond, guesstimate. So it takes about 5 years to get up to that based on the scenarios I put into the spreadsheet. Okay. That's something to consider. Is there a big project coming up for $1 million? And I will say this, I'm taking off well, it's both. It's the Open Space Preservation Commission Chair. We hope at some point that there will be an opportunity to protect more land. Land is very expensive and they're not making any more of it. So if that opportunity comes, you would like to have some capacity to do it. But I would not advocate to not bond something today because there could be something tomorrow. There's nothing. I mean, we've been trying, we reached out about the Johnson land and we couldn't get any interest in moving forward on it. So as one aspect of the CPA that hasn't been funded in a long time, I wouldn't say don't do it for that one. The other issue, just to be aware, when you bond, you change becomes a 2/3 vote, which is always harder than a majority vote. So if you do that, you're putting higher, well, you don't really have enough to do it without it. So, I mean, you could tell them to cut back, but that is something that the Recreation Department and Commission needs to be aware of and what level of support you have to have. And it makes it easier for people who don't want it to defeat it.
Right.
So that's just another given. But aside from that, you have enough money to do it. You have enough money to do it and save $500K for the additional projects. And the other thing I have to mention, Lisa's going to address it later, but I was hoping that we would have is it all right if I say this? I was hoping we would have the PRs done for the library and the townhouse, and it doesn't appear that's going to happen before town meeting. And what that would have done was give us an additional approximately $230,000. So that money is still allocated to those projects, but we're not tying those projects out until the PRs are done. We don't know how much of that money will go to the PR. It's not going to be a substantial amount of the funds, but that means going into next year, hopefully, it will be done by then. In addition to the 300-ish, there will be an additional 230,000 available for projects. So that means you would start next year. Okay.
Did you incorporate that into your, like, it'd take 5 years to get back up to $1 million?
No, because that's funds. It's not bonding capacity. So you could lower a bond by that amount, but
Yeah.
your bonding capacity is based on your surcharge.
Yeah.
And only your surcharge. And you just made me lose my train of thought. Okay. So also, I'm getting these crazy someone's trying to sell me screen protectors and they keep popping up and ruining my, does anyone have the budget up right now?
I do.
What was the surcharge expectation? And,
Wait.
okay, I'm sorry, this is just so nuts.
Let's see. I'll just share my screen. You can tell me where it is.
I think it's 500 and, nope,
This tab or the other one?
the other tab. Okay,
49.
So- did you go up to the top? 518, okay? So 567,000. And as we say, taxes go up, so it will be more than that. So next year, you would be looking at funds in the approximate $1 million range without really any significant bonding capacity. But does that make sense to you? So you can, in my opinion, you can afford to fund these projects in front of you and still be looking at a potential of $1 million to fund projects next year without bonding them.
Thank you. Let me ask
Without
you,
bonding them?
Sorry.
say?
You're using all your, if you fund the recreation project with a bond, you don't really have much bonding capacity next year.
Oh, I see, yeah, yeah.
But you would have $1 million available between what's in the accounts and what's anticipated revenue.
So let me ask you one other question. So again, I know everybody's probably tired of hearing me talk about timelines and you know what I mean? It's just a process thing for me. So based on this, knowing we're going to have information coming back for the next meeting, and there's going to be forums going after we actually craft something. So whether things may change or not. Based on your years of experience of doing this, are we making this timeline too tight to get this done? And again, I'm drawing on your experience. Rick.
No,
Okay, that's,
it is, I'm not saying it's not tight, but I will just share one experience where the selectmen were reviewing the applications for a town meeting, making their final votes on their positions. And we were downstairs in Mark Purple's office being handed an application that the committee decided to vote on. And you want to talk about crazy.
okay. Okay, so we are well, we're within.
We're so much better than that.
We're within meeting the timelines. If we, you know, continuing this till our next meeting on the 11th doesn't hinder us in any way from being able to make the deadlines for town meeting. That's-
What I would suggest is that I will have a full packet of recommended, depending on what you say tonight, recommended warrant articles and dollar amounts from which you have to identify which source you're funding from for you to move forward on, and then you still have time to make an adjustment before it has to go to the select board
So, okay,
for another meeting.
that's what I'm thinking. So for another meeting, so going into another meeting, I think the path is set forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything more than have the neighborhood and a lure. You've sat here all night. Please come up right now. No, we just wanted to, you know, I just wanted to get through the board. I wanted you to hear the discussions we were having, Lori. So please, by all means, come up and also know that Recreation is meeting next Thursday too. So you guys are welcome to attend those meetings. Okay, just let them know that, you know, if there's additional questions, you know, there is another public meeting prior to the
Okay.
11th.
Actually, on that lane, so Lori Borden, 9 Winter Street. I am representing the neighbors who are probably in bed. So I have a couple questions. One, a couple things came up was that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it doesn't sound like the neighbors will have an opportunity to weigh in till next summer. Is that accurate?
No. Again, this is what we're discussing in the meeting next week, but based on how tonight goes, like if in general, it looks like we're going to continue to move forward and that's if. At that point next week, we're going to say, okay, now we want to get into those design sessions with the architect. Like we kind of have like okay, this still has some viability before we spend any of Rex money to have that session because they'll need to be paid.
And will the neighbors or the?
Yeah, that's
be able
good.
to come?
Yeah, so we'll know next week, but Travis and I have discussed February with the idea then that gives the architects time to turn around feedback so we can have another session, you know, all before town meeting.
So this last conceptual plan, basically there is a lot of opportunity for people to move things around to like, first thing that comes up for me is that splash pad's way too close to the basketball court, which
Yeah.
presents a safety issue.
And those become questions that we can't answer. And it
Okay.
kind of got to the point where, you know, again, you can understand from the architect's perspective, they're only going to give so much before they're
So
like,
there are
okay.
opportunities to be able to weigh into the
Yes.
plans that are there. Save you $136,000 on picnic tables, which impede my green space that I am so passionate about.
But yeah, that's absolutely the intent of those
Okay.
sessions.
And then adding parking, which I will say that was a kind of a eye popper when we did not see any additional, because to Travis's point, there are 50 permitted parties, and that does not include the ones that are not so permitted. And I can tell you the trash issues
Yeah.
and the parking issues are pretty significant.
Yep.
The other question I just have is as far as, I think Claire touched on this, some of the waste management. Will the neighbors at that point and the community in general have an opportunity to weigh in about like dog waste and what the surfaces of those are as well?
Yeah.
And Claire also addressed the other question that somebody had about liability.
Yep.
And I think that was pretty much it. And I do want to say thank you very much. I mean, the neighbors on all sides are not against this project. We just want to be we want to be a supporter of this project at town meeting. And I'm happy to hear that we'll be a participant in the final plans.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, Travis is awesome in my opinion, but hopefully he's conveyed, like, we want the same thing, right? Like, nobody wants to push something forward.
Well, I'll get his email right next time when I send.
I did get it to him though, Lori.
I will say I had a few choice words, Travis, saying, oh my God, he's not answering my email from December. Needless to say, it was the day after Christmas. I should have known that. But, so I was happy actually that I spelled it wrong.
Yeah. And Travis, did I misspeak on anything I said?
No, you hit the nail on the head. I think there's going to be, we want to bring the neighbors and the residents as a whole along every step of the way. The rendering that you see is just so people can get an idea, but there'll definitely be opportunities, like you said, to move things around. The splash pad can be moved around. We want to get people's engagement and feedback every kind of step of the way through this whole process.
And I do want to give you a heads up on one thing before I go home and go to bed and get ready for work, is that the stairs down from the parking area are
Yeah.
very dangerous.
Mm.
And that will probably be a significant expense that I don't think was reflected in your,
That's a fair point.
in your cost analysis.
No, it's a very good point. I think in this,
Every parent who's had kids
yeah,
running down those steps
Yeah.
is nodding their head right now, yeah.
I think the self-assessment that the town did, the ADA self-assessment, and I think it was 2021, not only brought up the walking trail around the perimeter of Fay Memorial Park, but it also brought up those stairs too. So it's a good point. I'll circle back and make sure that that's included in the project as well.
And that parking by the dog park, I think if you have designated dog parking by where that shed is, that's also going to help.
Yeah.
Some of the neighbors' concerns. So thank you for your willingness to hear us out.
Always.
And, thank you for all that you guys do at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, so we're Thursday, we've got a Zoom 7 o'clock, Travis?
Thursday at 7. Yep. And then Lori, you can join us. That
So
too.
yeah. So rec.
We
We're the 11th.
we changed, we took our 5th off and we're going to do the 11th. Here. Well, we're hopefully here. We'll let you know where, Lori.
Zoom.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Raise
I
their hand
mean,
if they wanna speak.
Travis, we can, if they rather be in person too, we can consider that, whatever's best, yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely consider that. I think the idea, if we have 2 public outreach sessions, I think one in person, one via Zoom, we can talk about it next week. But Lori, I can, now that I have your email, Lori, I'll make sure if you can't make the meeting on Thursday, I'll just send you the dates and times for when those are going to be.
No, meetings don't normally go this long, Lori. But thank you for hanging around. We
Such a
appreciate
liar.
it. No, they don't. 10 o'clock is like a rarity for us. I strive for close to 9.
Yeah, I'm just,
Oh.
most of the meetings that you've ever attended.
Lisa, we
Okay.
have
Life
Patty
and
Burns.
select board.
So I guess,
Oh, wait,
Lisa,
Lisa.
we have
sorry.
Patty Burns for your.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I should have asked that. Turn and speak. You can hear you. Sorry, the mic's on. Hello, Patty. Are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can.
So this is Patty Fiore, 10 Winter Street. I just want to reiterate a couple of things that Lori mentioned, and these were also brought up in the letters that I have written to Travis and to the committee. I am very disappointed that no consideration has been given to the parking accommodations for increased traffic at this park. I would think that solving the parking problem should be number one before you spend any money to upgrade and improve the park, which is only going to create a larger need for more parking. I spoke with Bill Cundiff, not long after he actually started working for the town, which I think is 4 years ago now, and Chief Ryan and Sam Stivers, who was on the select board at the time, in regard to creating parking essentially where that triangle end of the dog park is proposed. There actually is an access road there off of Central Street, gravel access road that goes to that shed. And I had suggested creating parking there for the park as it was because there was not enough parking. And given the fact that the parking at 40 to 42 Central Street is going to be more limited. That brings my other question up is, could you remind me of what the legal deeded spaces are at 40 to 42? Is it 8?
8 with, then there was 4 additional ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the deed in front of me, Patty.
I thought that was being,
That was my next question. I thought, is town council reviewing that? Did recreation request?
I know we've been waiting to hear from town council. I don't know that Rec's been driving that discussion. Travis, have you heard anything? I think we were more waiting to hear.
so I just want to just remind you of something. Since I was speaking to Bill Cundiff and Chief Ryan and these guys almost 4 years ago regarding the parking and that the parking was an issue. At that time, the people going to that park had full access of the parking lot at 4042 Central Street. Full access. There was no restriction on the number of parking spaces available. We're now saying that it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 12. So that's actually reducing the parking that the people going to this park have been used to over the last however many years the park has been there. In addition to that, given the requests of the neighbors with the sight lines on that street, the parking along Central Street at the park was also reduced 3 years ago or something by, I think it was like 1.5 parking spots. So I think that there's only about 13 that are on Central Street that border the park. What we often find, and I live a bit toward the other end of, opposite end of Winter Street, but cars park in front of my house to go to this park when there's a big party or something there. So again, I think that step 1 in any of this planning needs to be how to solve a parking issue that is only going to get worse if you add in a splash pad and a dog park. That was my first point. My next question is, I don't really understand how a splash pad works. Is that just constantly recirculating water?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the idea. We are recycling water. And there's certain, hours in which it will be able to be turned on, but that's the exact type of thing. I'm not an expert by any means. That's the exact type of thing where you'll have the opportunity to talk to the architects who know far more about the kind of inner workings of all of that.
But I think these are important questions.
Right,
The
right,
answers
and
to
that's
in
why we
order to
cover it.
know whether we're voting for or against it at town meeting. I mean,
Yeah,
to
so-
me, the parking is a non-starter. That has to be solved.
Mhm.
And 2, you're talking about recycling water or recirculating water?
It's, can I jump in?
Yes,
Please.
please.
Yeah, it's recycled water, Patty. It's
Mhm.
and it's treated, it's recycled. It's obviously more green because you're not just pumping water through it constantly. That's the way a lot of splash pads are being built now, trying to recirculate and recycle water where you can to save it.
So what do you mean it's being treated?
With chlorine, just like you would a pool, just to make sure that you kill any bacteria, anything that could be harmful. It's water's treated then reused.
So in a public pool, the water the chemical levels have to be constantly tested, like multiple times a day. Is that the case for this? And if so, who does that?
Board of Health, but if that would be something that either the rec department or Board of Health would have to do, and I don't want to speak for them. I don't know how frequently it's tested. I don't know if it is something that is tested at the beginning, midpoint, and end of the seasons, but I can work with Board of Health and get an answer for you if you like.
But if you're constantly recycling it to add additional chemicals, I think it would have to be tested more than a couple of times during the season.
I would think so too, but I don't want to give you an answer that would be incorrect as well.
Okay, again, I think that's a question that we need to have an answer to in order to know to vote on this, because if that has to be tested on a constant, even a weekly basis, somebody's going to charge us for that. That's going to be an additional expense. So I think that's important to know.
I manage 2 pools in Norwood, and we tested that within the department daily. So if it is a testing issue, frequency is not an issue. And it is pretty simple to test the water. If it is daily, weekly, whatever that might be, we'll follow Board of Health guidance on what we need to do.
I assume that when you tested pools, though, the testing was done by lifeguards or the manager that was on site. You're talking about a splash pad where there is not going to be any on-site lifeguards or staff.
Yep. And if it's weekly, daily, but I don't think it's that frequent, but I can double check.
Another question regarding that water. So it's recycled, but is there drainage of that water? Where does the water go? It's just going to go underground and be re-chemicaled and then spit up again?
That's correct. In a very simplified way, yes.
Okay. But there's got to be a water source to, evaporation, et cetera, et cetera. You got to be adding water to this, right?
Correct. There is, I would imagine initially, there would be some sort of water. There is water access to the park. I do know that. We have checked with DPW. So
there's a drinking fountain there.
Yep. So there is water access.
So do you have any idea of how many gallons of water, per week or per month the expectation is this would use?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. I just ask what similar communities use and how much they use on a seasonal basis and how much they spend on water. So that way we can come with an accurate budget number to try to raise annually for program fees to help support the splash pad maintenance and utility cost.
So the cost for the water would be billed to Recreation Department?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I guess those are my real questions at this moment. I think it would be important to get some of those answers, and especially regarding parking, which is already insufficient. And I can't see it getting better without some kind of something to solve the issue. Already one.
I totally agree, and I want to exhaust all options to try to make parking as accessible and safe and create as much parking as we can for that park.
Have you put together like a estimate of how many people would be using that? Like what, a traffic study per se for how much parking do you see being used on a hot summer Saturday? How many people would be there? How many cars need to be able to park within a reasonable distance to bring little kids there?
I don't think we've had a study. We've gone down there, and I've gone down there during birthday parties that I know are bigger parties, just to check on them on like a weekend or a weekday afternoon. And I've seen what it looks like at its worst, I would think. So trying to come up with an idea of what the parking accommodations that we could do safely that would increase parking there, that would help the park at its worst is what I'm kind of envisioning in my head, and trying to figure out how we can create more parking down there that's going to make everybody's life a lot safer and easier. But we're looking at, Lori had the good idea of maybe adding parkings by the shed. The Fayetteville Athletic Association was a possible conversation we can have. So I want to look under every stone to see how we can expand parking there.
But the shed is going away. That's where the dog park is.
Yep.
That's
And the way that we
that's the access road that I was talking about that we talked about 4 years ago and hasn't made any progress. But that's where that parking would go. But that's where you have a dog park.
Yep, and the renderings are rendering, and if there's a way that we can add parking there, that would add additional parking there. Maybe there's ways that we can explore that too.
So that makes the dog park smaller.
The footing a little bit, but I'd have to look at it first before we add parking and make the dog park a little bit smaller.
But again, I'd argue
Yeah.
before we do that, this is the iterative process we want to do with the architects in the room, with other members of the public, because, this feedback's great, but it's, it's one person's feedback. Like we need to collectively discuss options, what's viable, what's not. We did talk about a few other things that we're looking at for parking, including businesses around the area that only operate during certain hours. So I would just encourage you, like, this is exactly the conversation we want, but we want it in the design sessions with the architect and other members of the public
And that will be after town meeting or before?
before.
Kristen, with adding parking, would that be adding it to this plan, or you mean in the surrounding neighborhood?
Well, I don't want to, we've had a few iterations. We did have parking there at one point. I came out for a reason. I don't remember why, but that's it. Like playing with the prototype that we have. Now it's like, what is actually possible? And we need the experts there to really tell us that, like, what are the trade-offs if we were to put parking there? How much smaller does the park get? Do people, again, I want to stress that a lot of this comes down to the public too.
Yeah, I was just thinking if it's if it's going to get CPA funding, I think parking would need to be in the application that's an allowed use and probably on the plan.
Yeah, so we
So
might
we'd have
have
to
a
figure that.
revision to the application coming out of those design sessions.
Okay.
So then I assume that that would also revise the budget to
It
pay
may.
to create
It may,
parking.
but Freddie's, prepared for that. We could always amend it even on the floor if we absolutely needed to, but we don't want to do that ideally.
Okay. Patty, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you for hanging around.
Yep.
I think at this point, I think we just need to agree to continue this discussion to the 11th. I think there's some questions that need to be answered. So I am one person who's saying I'm open to leaving this application open in the discussion until the 11th and before we make final decisions. Ellen,
Agreed.
you agree? Grant?
Yeah, I'm happy to keep open the discussion. I just note that I think right now I think I mentioned it earlier, but cost concerns about what's going to happen with bonding capacity.
Yeah.
One thing I've been thinking about, and I know that this would not be well received by Kristen and others on recreation, but like it seems to me, I was just looking at like the dog park line item, which is 83,000. I know that wouldn't be the full cost of only the dog park because you'd have to do site work and stuff like that. But I'm wondering if it's this is too much for now, and whether or not it could be broken up is kind of
Phasing
something.
it. We've
Phasing
definitely
it.
talked about phasing it again.
Like,
That's
if we were to do just the dog park, would this be
Right.
like, I don't know, 250? I think that's maybe.
and
would
that's
go
kind of
down-
like
go down
getting into that
easier.
next level of detail with
Yeah.
architects to say, okay, if we phased it, like obviously there's a cost impact on not doing the work all at once.
Yeah.
Like, how do we impact the plumbing that needs to be done if we put on the dog park first? Like, those are all discussions that are worthwhile, but like, we need to pay for those. So before we
No, I was just thinking from the budget perspective, like
Yeah.
if we're dealing with one at a time or something, that might have implications for the bonding.
We've
capacity.
definitely considered
Yeah.
that for sure.
But yeah, so I'm happy to continue the conversation. I'll probably ask some more questions next time.
Okay.
Um,
Awesome.
And I did make a spreadsheet of the budget comparison. So it was off by 200 or 190,000, the original one. The current one, at least the numbers on the PDF all add up correctly. So, but the original one was off by 190. So it's a weird dynamic of The budget actually went down, but to us, it looks like it went up.
One final statement,
Yep, and then I
For
can
me?
clear. Yep.
sorry,
No, no,
is just to know that after you write the warrant article and it's printed, it's based on what you know at the time, and the committee has the ability to put a different warrant article, as long as it's within the four corners of the law, on the floor if things change. What people vote on is what the chair, whoever's putting it on,
Yeah.
moves on the floor. So this is what happened in another project we had where there were changes made after the warrant article, and the warrant article that was placed on the floor was different with the new project, and that's what people voted on.
Yeah, there was a separate sheet that went out, that was a handout that had the revised motion on it.
I'm not suggesting that will happen, but I'm saying
Right.
it leaves you an
Yeah.
official way to make changes after you have this design thing. You have to have them by town meeting, kind
Yeah.
of, but you know, it gives you
Okay.
some more time.
Thank you. Claire, are you amenable to leaving this application open until the 11th before we take final positions?
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am. So I will just say, I was pleasantly surprised at the numbers. I think this, if we move forward, there is a way to do this. I think it would, create a bonding capacity issue, if you will, but we don't know of anything that's coming forward. But also, we'd be looking at the next fiscal year of having $1 million anyway. So that doesn't scare me as much as it did initially. So, but I do think, Grant, we need to explore, as you said. So,
Yeah, for me, I think of three. One is, two of them we discussed tonight. One is the golf course,
yes,
could be an additional 400,000 or 500,000. Historical will be coming back, so that's
Yeah.
100, 150, whatever the
Right.
range is. And then wasn't explicitly talked about tonight, but I could imagine a scenario in which Cat and Trails would want to come back to finish the boardwalk within the next 5 years. And so if we don't have bonding capacity for the next 5, that kind of thing.
Can I say,
But those are three that come to mind.
the $1 million next year scenario, I off, the back of the napkin, that was after setting aside 100K
and the 400.
for the tower and
Yep.
400K for
Oh,
the
okay.
golf.
Yeah, it's
Thanks.
after
So
that.
after that, plus all of the projects in front of you,
Okay, thanks.
there would be an anticipate, and I will run that out, not on,
Yeah.
in my head, but I will give you a sheet of paper showing that for next year.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anything, did you do your budget review, or is there more?
You
Sorry.
say that so
I'm
enthusiastically.
sorry.
I've got an hour's more of work. No,
No, please.
no, that's it.
Okay, so we're good there. So I'm gonna signage, I'm gonna punt that. I know we keep punting it, but you know what, at this point. Chair's report, just so everyone knows, I spoke to John Parent today. The Spencer Group has reached out to Mass Historic to start the review process for a PR. We're moving in that direction, though, as Freddie said, it takes time. It's, Mass Historic's got to review it, it's got to come back. So we're probably still a year away from that. Secondly, I wanted to give a big shout out to Katie and Freddie for the annual report. I thought that they did a great job on it, and it's very much appreciated. And then that takes us to our minutes. I will say, I love the new minute taker. Susan is fantabulous. So, why don't we just go through those quickly? I didn't see, Ellen, you typically edit in the Dropbox. I didn't see that you did. So Susan will be watching, but I'll also take down any edits, or you can forward them to me or her, however you want to do it. So why don't we do October 16th first, and we'll kind of just go down the line. I didn't have any on that one.
I think I put one really small thing.
Okay, yeah, I caught your name on a couple of the other ones. Spelled wrong.
Yeah, that was the one. On the 16th, I had like the most minor of things.
Okay.
Somebody had put changes in there, though, I thought.
Yeah, that one had
Oh, I didn't see. it.
highlight on line 68, and somebody did a change on
Oh,
line 70.
That was me. Sorry. I did
oh,
it
what? Somebody didn't
right
see it.
before this.
Okay, that's totally fine. I missed it before. I must have printed it before you did it. Okay.
And I'm
so-
just gonna even like show you, there's that parenthesis there's no closing, so just remove it.
Which
Or
line?
the,
What number?
sorry,
61.
line 61.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
For
Okay.
68, how is that supposed to be resolved?
I didn't know.
Okay.
That's why I just highlighted it. and didn't
Mr.
know if
Foley
I
said
knew.
elements are changed out as they fail, and Ms.
Okay, So I don't have the one, was there questions?
I would
that-
just take out the and Ms. here,
Okay. So line
as they
16.
fail, period. This question.
Okay, just say it into the microphone.
Okay,
Because
sorry,
Susan's watching
line
too.
68, starting on 67, Mr. Farley said elements could be changed out as they fail.
Oh,
Change that to period, removed, and Ms., and just start the next sentence, this question.
okay. Ellen, what were yours? Just,
And then just line 70, items he plans to have should be fleshed out instead of flushed out.
oh. Okay,
And that's it.
okay. Grant, did you have anything?
Nope.
Okay, Claire, did you have anything?
Nope, you guys
Claire, were
did
you
a
happy
great
to
job.
see, were you happy to see her do the minutes instead of you having to do them? All right, so do we have a motion to approve the October 16th, 2025 minutes as amended?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you. We have to do roll call because Claire's not here. Kristen?
Lavelle, yes?
Okay. Ellen?
Yes.
Grant?
yes.
Claire?
Aye.
And Lisa, aye. Okay, perfect. Let's go to October 22nd.
So you got line
73,
73 and
yeah.
79.
Oh, I missed the 79 one. Okay. Okay, 73, 79, Laval has an A instead of an E. Okay, Ellen, what were yours?
Nothing on this one.
Wow, Susan is good. Grant?
Nothing, but I'd just like to note that I love the CPA image of the sign on line 54.
Yeah. Isn't that good? Claire, did you have any edits on this one, October
yeah.
22nd?
Nope,
Thank you. I don't either. So, okay, do we have a motion to approve the October 22 meeting minutes as amended?
so moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second,
Thank you. Roll call. Kristen?
yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Claire?
Aye.
Lisa, aye. Okay, great. Let's do December 18th. Those were quite the minutes. I had line 42.
Yep.
Kristen's name again. And then on lines 145 and 146.
We're backing up real quick.
Yes.
50, 51.
Sorry, 51.
Mr.
Okay.
Grant?
I'm looking at the right one. Oh, line 50. I went to 150. Okay. 50 and 51.
And then.
Oh, Mr. Grant. Okay, so just,
Mr. Ferdinand needs to be updated. D at the end.
okay, updated needs a D. Okay, got it. Got it. Okay, Ellen, did you have any on those?
I think just that until it looks like you were getting to 143. And
Okay.
nothing before that.
Okay, so, just was it put, more input on the trust. It should be the trust. I don't think CPC should be there. I think it was just the trust. Kristen, that was your, she highlighted it in red.
And yeah.
It should be the trust.
Yes.
CPC shouldn't be there on
Yep.
both of those.
What line is that?
Sorry, 145 and 146.
Yep.
We'll just take the CPC out and we'll put the trust in there.
Okay, yep.
Okay, any other ones, anyone?
Nope.
Kristen, any
Motion
others?
to approve the December 18th minutes
As amended?
as amended.
Thank you.
Second,
Okay, roll call.
yes.
Ellen. Grant.
Yes.
Lisa, yes.
I didn't
Claire.
have to say yes.
Yes,
But yes.
Yes, okay, and now do we have a motion to adjourn?
yes, motion to adjourn at
there a second?
10:19.
All right,
Second,
okay, roll call. Kristen,
yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Lisa, yes. All right, great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Good
everybody.
night, all.
Wait, is
Thank
there,
you.
even-
Thanks, everyone.
there's no public comment?
No, it's not on there.
Okay.
We're good.
Bye.